All right. Sorry, you can hear me smacking a little bit. You caught me in the middle eating some cookies. I got some good old Subway cookies. Not really good for reaching my weight goals here, but I did just come from the gym, so it's all good. Let me know if the sound is good. I didn't get to do a pre-check, a pre-audio check or anything like that. So let me know how the sound is. Let me know if the Spotify stuff's too loud. Let me know if you can hear my voice. Dang, I should got some water. I might, thank you. I appreciate you. Someone's gonna grab me some water. My good friend Coffee, if anyone was watching the first go around, Coffee was here during the engineering panel. She's over here helping me out, making sure, I'm hydrated for the stream. But yeah, streaming 4 days a week. It's so far. I mean, this is the first week, so it's not too bad right now. Luckily today, here in Maryland, it snowed. Maryland, DC area, it snowed a little bit. When there's a threat of snow, people get a little bit scared. Actually, let me zoom in just a little bit. I still got a lot of boxes in here. People get a little bit scared, so a lot of people left work early today. I think the federal government shut down at 1. I think so. So I had a little bit extra time today. But we're doing all good. How's everybody doing? What's today? I'm losing track of my days. Today's Tuesday, the second stream of the DevOps bootcamp for the week. So this is the end of the week for the DevOps bootcamp. Is there anyone on right now who was still not able to get into the Google Classroom? I've seen a bunch of messages. I just haven't had time to respond to people. Is there anyone who's still having trouble going through the email that was sent? One, did you get the email? If not, reach out to me. I can get you the email. That's my only goal tonight, is to go through and respond to everyone's messages about that, to make sure everyone gets in there. You said you didn't get the email, Long Belly. I'll check. Let me copy your name down. Let's see. Just copying names down to people who did not. Actually, I'm just going to add you as a friend too. Then I'll whisper you. Cool. Yeah. So I think it should allow you to get in now if you don't have a Gmail account. So I think I got that worked out. So hopefully we'll get. And everyone who did not get the email, one came back out last night. So if you subscribe after last night, then maybe I'll need to resend it. And I'll definitely resend that out tonight. So I'll probably send it out. Excuse all the people who are subscribed. Excuse all the email blasts. Probably for the first week or so. After the first week, I'll have people, as people subscribe, I'm actually gonna have someone watching out for those people and writing those people down so that I can send them their codes directly inside of Twitch, as well as the Discord. Thank you, Coffee. Got a little bit of water, so that I'm not parched all stream. Share slides like you did yesterday with Python. Yep, I can absolutely share the slides. Let's go ahead and grab those things right now. Close apps to the right. Tonight, we're going to go with what are we doing? DevOps deep dive. Yeah, so we're going to be doing the intro to programming stuff tonight. Let me go ahead and share you the link. Share. Let's make sure we can get it to everybody. Great question. I'll try to make sure that I have the link available beforehand. Maybe I'll add it as a chat command. Can view. How do I get it to be? Anyone with the link? There we go. Go ahead and copy the link. Paste it in here. There's the Google Docs and the Google Slides for everyone who's interested in it. But cool. Something in the treasury. Okay. Cool. I'll definitely make sure to send out all of that. Don't sweat it right now. We'll definitely get you in. All the stuff for this week in the Google Classroom is pretty introductory. So it's a lot of videos and stuff. So not a ton of work. So don't feel like you're gonna be like pressed for time afterwards. Trying to get everything done for the week. I think we're gonna be all good. All right. So last night, this took a little bit longer than I expected. So last night was the intro to programming for Python. If anyone's taking the Python course, a lot of what we do tonight will be similar. Almost the same in the beginning, at least. But tonight we're going to get deeper into the editor wars. So we're going to go deeper into the editors that we're going to be using, and we might get a head start on some installation with Golang and stuff. We'll write a little bit of code tonight. We'll mess around probably in the Go playground just to make sure everything I don't know. I think the installation of Go can be just a little bit harder than Python. So I think it might help if people can start trying it out now, so that next week we can kind of just move into some things. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So tonight, intro to programming. You're the one, Neo. Everyone thinks programming is like the Matrix, and so hopefully, when we get done with these first two sections, you will feel the same way. Hopefully you've seen The Matrix. If you haven't seen The Matrix is one of the best movies of our time. Watch it. It's pretty it can be deep if you analyze it as such. But it's a good movie. You should check it out. Red pill or blue pill. This is kind of this almost is shadowing the boot camps, whether or not you're doing Python or DevOps. But let's get going. Very simple. What is programming really? Again, this is going to be, for the beginning, this is almost going to be word for word, what you guys learned last night, for everyone who's doing the Python one. So hopefully I don't bore you to death. Maybe you can check out for a little while until we get to the editor section. We'll get there a lot faster tonight. But what the heck is programming really? Programming really is when you provide a computer or other machine with coded instructions for the automatic performance of a task. That is not my definition. That is something I got off of Google, and I thought it was a great one. I think if you Google what is programming, this will come up in the little box off to the right. But think about what that means. So we're providing a computer or machine. So the laptop that you're on, the desktop that you're on, your phone. You're providing this computer or machine with coded instructions. So you're giving it instructions that you've coded so that it can automatically perform a task. Computers right now, we do have, even though we have machine learning and AI now, computers generally, they don't think. They do what you tell them to do. They perform tasks based on the instructions that you give them. And so that's what programming is. It's you giving the machine instructions, coded instructions, so that it is able to perform a task. And how do we give it instructions? What's up, Duck Butter? How you doing? How you doing tonight? But how do we give it instructions? So we give it instructions with coding languages. You see a bunch right here. There's a whole lot of coding languages out there right now. We'll talk about we'll talk about a lot of them. We'll talk about the differences between some of them. But this is how we give it instructions with a coding language. So these coding languages are things like Golang. So we're going to be learning Go over the next 3 classes. We're going to start tonight. And over the next 2 courses, we're going to be learning Go in this course. In Python, we're learning for 12 weeks in the other boot camp. But this is how we're going to be. These are different ways that you can pass the computer instructions. So you've probably heard of other coding languages like JavaScript or Java or a million of them, Haskell or Ruby. These are different ways that you can pass a computer. These have been developed so that you can pass instructions to a computer and it can interpret them for you. And then we kind of have 4 parts here, really 3 parts. And I pulled number 3 out of the Python one, just because the goal of that whole thing is to learn how to do programming. I kind of pulled it out because that'll be something that we may be able to get into later. But I'm going to go over number 3 with you guys tonight. I'm going to go over bytecode. And sorry if you hear the sirens outside. I'm literally like, one day I'll point the camera out. The Baltimore the police station is right outside of my window. So sometimes we'll get some sirens. But these are kind of the 4 pieces that kind of have to happen for the computer to understand our instructions. So number 1, we'll write the source code. We're going to talk about what source code is in a bit. Compilation or interpretation takes place. Conversion to bytecode may take place for certain languages, and that gets converted into machine code, which is the thing the machine can read. So basically, this entire process, these steps right here, are all like Google Translate. It is you taking in some information on the left. Let's say you speak English, and then a bunch of things happen in between. Right here, basically to translate in the middle here, to spit it out in Spanish or into the language that the machine knows, which is machine code, binary. So what is source code? So number 1, we've got number 1 on the list. This is important. Source code. Source code is the human readable code that you write. This is going to be what we're going to be learning to write. When you learn how to program, you're learning how to write source code. Tonight, we're going to be learning how to write source code. Over the next 2 classes, we're going to be learning how to write source code. We're going to be writing source code for the entirety of this bootcamp, actually. So Um, that's what source code is. It's human readable. This may not look human readable to you, but it is. You can see. Looks like, are we dropping a little bit? Hold on, I am monitoring it. I'll let it come back. Let me click my monitoring. I started on the bit rate so that we don't have trouble like we had the very first go. I didn't have any problems last night, which was nice. I really didn't have any problems last night. Again, I'm about to get an Ethernet drop in here soon, so that we'll be good. Right now, we're doing everything over Wi-Fi, so sometimes it's hit or miss, but that should be resolved pretty soon. But cool, I'm back. But yeah, source code, you can see words in here like for and range, and you can understand the letters. These are things that you're familiar with. You're familiar with these symbols. You don't know what they mean in terms of the code that's on here yet, but you can read these things. When you look at it, you can read these things. You can interpret what's going on maybe. But it's readable by you. If I asked you to read it to me, you could read it to me. You could say I, and then you could say an arrow and a 1 and an X and an arrow and 50 range. Now you don't know what it means, but you can interpret it. You can read it. And this is the code that you're going to be writing. So that's number one, the code that you're going to be writing. So after you get that code, after you've opened up a file, you've typed all the things that you want to type into it, what happens after that? So we are going to talk about two different things. We're going to talk about compiled languages versus interpreted languages in a second. But for compiled languages, for compiled languages, that code that you write, that source code that you write, now goes through a compiler, which is a complicated piece of technology that translates your source code into machine code, or binary or bytecode. I almost want to pull this off for now, but a compiler, if you have a compiled language, Go is a compiled language. So we are going to be over here. We're going to be working on a compiled language. If you want to mess with an interpreted language in Python, we're working on interpreted languages. So even if you're doing the DevOps bootcamp, I actually recommend that tomorrow and all next week you take a look at both bootcamps, because it'll help you understand the difference between a compiled language and interpreted language. You get to compare real time some of the things that are good, some of the things that are bad, some of the things that are complicated, and you could figure out for yourself which one you like more. But a compiler goes ahead and compiles that source code straight into the code that your machine can read. So it's that Google Translate to get the source code into machine readable code. As opposed to an interpreter. So we said we have some languages that are compiled, some languages that are interpreted, and an interpreter does things real time. So for a computer to read your, if it's a compiled language, if it has to go through a compiler, you have to write your code, and then before your computer can do anything with it, it has to run through the compiler. This can be time consuming sometimes, and then it spits out something else that your computer now can read. An interpreted language has an interpreter as opposed to a compiler. And what that does is that real time, instead of pre-compiling all of your code, it kind of goes through real time, line by line, and it interprets the meaning of your code and interprets that and translates that into a way that the computer can read. So you pass in your source code, you go to run your code. This is the code that you wrote over here. The interpreter takes that file and says, cool, I got the file. Let's go ahead and start executing the things that you put in this file. And as it goes through, it will go ahead and it will convert all of that stuff into the language that your computer can read. So they might sound very similar to you right now, and they are very similar. Well, they're very similar conceptually in what they do, but they do them in different ways. So high level conceptually, they are similar. They both take your code and translate it into something that the computer can read. Bytecode. So we are going to go into bytecode tonight. We skipped bytecode last night. So bytecode is interesting. It's this intermediary step. It's this intermediary format that source code gets compiled into. So you take it and you actually do compile that code, but that code doesn't compile all the way down. That code doesn't compile all the way down into machine readable code. It compiles down into bytecode, or this code that can be run. It's optimized to run on a virtual machine. So if you know anything like Java, Java has the JVM. So Java is a compiled language. You compile that code, but it gets pushed down into bytecode, which is then optimized to run on the JVM, which is then designed to run on, the Java virtual machine that exists. So there are a few languages like this. .NET is one of them as well. So they're a little bit of a hybrid. They compile code down to something that can be interpreted by this virtual machine or by this other little machine that kind of exists and runs. And generally it's optimized to run the code quickly. So again, Java and .NET are kind of the main ones that you probably care about that do this. There are a few others that do this as well. So bytecode is kind of the hybrid of the two. So after bytecode or compilation or interpretation, it turns into machine code. So ones and zeros, it turns into those the digits that allow your computer to process what's going on. So computers understand two states. Some ones that you can say ones and zeros, you can say on and off. It's not really any of those, to be honest, but your computer can understand two states basically, and they're commonly referred to as ones and zeros. And it gets converted down into binary, binary meaning two, either 0 or 1, and your computer then interprets that. So there's a bunch of steps there. There's a bunch of steps in that conversion. Again, compiled languages only do they run through the compiler. You write the source code before it can be run at all. It runs through the compiler, and that translates the entirety of the application into something the computer can read, as opposed to an interpreted language, which doesn't do any pre-compilation. You pass it, you run the code, and the interpreter runs through and line by line figures out what to do. And bytecode is a hybrid of the two. You compile it down into bytecode first, and then the bytecode is then interpreted by the JVM. By whatever the virtual machine is that's doing it. The JVM is the common one, which is the Java virtual machine. But what's the difference between the two? Like, why don't all coding languages do the same thing? Why don't they operate the same way? Why would some things be compiled and some things be interpreted? And this is for a number of reasons. So one, compiled languages, because they do all of their work up front before you can use this source code on your machine, run it as an application, because it needs to be compiled first. It's very fast and efficient at runtime. So we're going to use, throughout this bootcamp, we're going to try to use the words that you're going to be hearing as you are getting further and further into your career. Runtime. Runtime is when the code is run, when the application is run. When you start it, that's runtime. So very efficient at runtime, which means very fast, means that when you go to run your code, it's going to be very quick. It's going to be very efficient. Again, why is it going to be very efficient? It's because that compiler did all the work beforehand. So you took your source code, the compiler, it may take a long time. It may be computer intensive, but it does all the work beforehand, does all the calculations and things that it needs to do, puts everything where it needs to be, translates it into something that the computer can read. And then it gives this efficient, easy to read thing to your computer, which means it runs very fast when your computer does get it or when you run it. The second thing is that silly errors are caught at compile time. So we just talked about runtime. That's when your application is run. So if that's when your application is run, if when your application is run is runtime, then when your application is being compiled, that's compile time. So again, you can think about compiling as that translation. When you're translating your code into something the computer can read, that's when silly errors are caught. So because of this, because compilation does all of that calculation, it does all these checks, and all the checks and balances are done there, and it makes sure that you're working with inside of the rules that the language has available to it. Dumb errors and things that like silly logic errors sometimes can be caught during that time rather than at runtime. So why would that be good? That would be good because let's say you're a bank or something and you wrote some code and you're going to put out this new feature, and when it goes to build, when you go to compile it, you see an error that you catch a dumb error that someone made, but you caught it during compile time, so that code isn't out and available for the public to use yet. It's just kind of building, it's translating in the background. But maybe this error could cause you to lose a bunch of money. So you catch it there rather than catching it when it runs. So before it even gets out to people, you're kind of mitigating some of your risk there with a compiled language. Number 3, due to its efficiency, compiled languages tend to be less of a strain on computer resources. So let's talk about why that might be. And maybe you don't know what computer resources are. So computer resources are things like your CPU and your memory, even your disk throughput, your read and write speeds of your hard drive, all the resources that your computer has. So we'll dive a lot deeper into that when we get into the like systems management stuff. So don't sweat it if you don't know what like computer resources are. We'll talk deeper about what CPU is and what memory is and what their roles are. But you have a finite number of resources on your computer. You have a finite number of resources, and when you perform a task that needs to process something, when you perform a task that needs to make some decisions and things like that, do this translation, it takes up these resources, it uses them up. So because you are compiling these things first, that's when the resources are used. So when you go to compile, it may use up a lot of your resources. You may go compile your application and it uses up everything on your computer. But once it's done, it's already really done the work. It's made an efficient package out of this for your computer to read. So when you go to run it, when you go to runtime, your computer doesn't need to do this. It no longer needs to do these calculations, and so it's very efficient. It's very fast, and it doesn't take a strain on your resources because it's already used up your resources. It's used them up and given them back, and now it no longer needs to do any of those things. So again, when you think about a compiled language, generally you want to think efficiency, you want to think speed, but you also want to think about this next one, which is static typing. This is a concept that if this is your first time learning about coding and programming languages, this is going to be something that you're going to have to dive deeper into on your own. We're going to go over it right now. You may get a little bit of what it is, but you're likely going to have to dive a little bit deeper into what static typing versus dynamic typing means. We're going to try to throw some examples at you today. We'll probably use Python and Go for this. Maybe JavaScript is a better one for dynamic typing. But static typing, it's not typing on a keyboard. Static typing is talking about data types. We're going to talk about data types, I think, in the very next slide. But static typing means that data types can't be changed, or not that they can't be changed, but that you need to be explicit with data types. So if I want something to be a certain type, I need to be explicit about it. The application is not going to try to figure it out for me. This is something called type inference. They're in statically typed languages, besides Go. There's generally no type inferencing, and we'll dive deeper into what type inferencing means. But again, we want to pick up the concepts here. Just write down the word. It's okay if you don't know what it is. Write down the word. Write down type inferencing or inferring types, so that you can do a little bit more research on it if we don't answer your questions throughout the rest of the stream. But statically typed languages, besides Go, don't have type inferencing in them, and you have to be explicit about what data type something is. You got to be very explicit about it. All right, so I just told you all of the pros of a compiled language. Now I'm going to tell you the pros of an interpreted language, but in the same vein, keep in mind that the pros of the compiled languages are things that are detrimental to the interpreted language, and vice versa. So I want you to make those inverse connections here. So if we're saying that compiled languages are very fast and efficient at runtime, that probably is going to mean that interpreted languages are not as fast or efficient at runtime. But this is what the benefits are of an interpreted language. One is that you can change code and you can test that quickly. So you can very quickly make changes to code and you can test it very quickly. Why is that? That is because you do not have this compile time before the code is run. You can change your code and then you run it, and immediately your interpreter will start to give you results of what that change is, and the code will run, as is. You don't need to pre-compile it so that you can run it. So that means if a quick update needs to be made for a compiled language, if you need to go in and make a quick update, you have to go in and make a quick update, and then you've got to compile the entire program again before you can run it and find out what your errors are, or be able to debug it or whatever. Interpreted languages, you can make a quick change, go ahead and run it, and you'll be able to see the output of that immediately. General debugging is easier in interpreted languages. And again, generally is the key word here. This is not always the case, but generally debugging is easier in an interpreted language. Why is that? So that is for a number of reasons. One being that because it's interpreted, because of the way that it is run, it's sometimes it's a little more procedural than a compiled language might be, as well as that quick feedback, as well as that, like, I don't have to recompile before I can see my changes, things like that. You can also attach, you can attach debuggers to both, but debuggers in interpreted languages I find to be a little bit easier to work with, again, because of not having to precompile. You can kind of step through things a little bit easier real time if you need to. So, when you're running through a problem and you want to figure out a problem, it's generally easier to debug those things in an interpreted language. And the last thing, and these are both pros for both of them. So I said these are pros for everything. The typing piece, these aren't actually inverse of each other, to be honest. They're pros for each of them. So the other one has static typing, which means you have to be very explicit about types, and that the language wouldn't try to infer your types or wouldn't try to figure out what type you're talking about, or a type that you want something to be, a data type that you want something to be. Interpreted languages are the opposite, and they have dynamic typing, so you do not have to be explicit. And so, like, what's the benefit of that? The benefit of, hold on, turn this down a little bit. The benefit of not having to be so explicit is that you can move a little more fluid. Sometimes, the rules aren't as strict, and you can use that to solve problems in a different way. So because you don't have to be explicit, these things have type inferencing. So it'll try to figure out what a data type is. It'll try to figure out what you want a data type to be without you having to explicitly say it. And I'm going to show you exactly what that means. We're going to do a bunch of examples that shows you exactly what that means. That is an excellent question, Tolent. No, there's a switch on the back of the headphones that turns down the music. So it doesn't turn down the music on the stream. It just turns down the music in my ears. It was super loud in my ears and I didn't turn it down. But that was a good question. I kind of wish the back of my head did turn down. But yeah, so again, typing is important. Write down static versus dynamic typing. Sometimes you'll see strictly typed or statically typed versus dynamic typing. And these are the pros and cons. Again, compiled languages are real fast, but they're fast and efficient for the computer, but they have to be compiled beforehand. That makes them a little harder to make changes to because of the compilation time. But yeah, they're super fast and you have to be strict about everything. The rules are a lot stricter there. Interpreted languages, because you can make changes quickly, they're kind of easier to get up and running with. And you can do things a little bit quicker. There's usually not as much setup to get going with those things, but they're not as fast or efficient for the computer because, again, it needs to real time do those translations and figure out what needs to happen. And then you can choose whether or not you like dynamic or static typing. I used to be a huge fan of interpreted dynamically typed languages, huge fan. And then I learned Go. And now, I prefer Go to everything, but I prefer a lot of interpreted languages over things like Java. So there's a lot to go on there, Let's see. So we'll take a break there. Take that in. Again, go back. I shared this with you. I shared the slides with you. Write down the things that you're still confused about. It's okay to still be confused about everything we just talked about. I'm shooting this out at you. It is very okay for you not to understand this. But think about it. Write down what you don't know. I want you to spend those 5 hours I told you need to spend outside of this, listening to some podcasts that I'll share with you, watching some videos to kind of drive home some of these things. So again, which basically the whole goal of coding and the way that we're going to be providing a computer instructions is we're going to write source code either via compilation or interpretation. It's going to get converted into a way that the computer can read it, and the computer is going to go ahead and process those things for us. Take that in. Again, we'll stop there before we get into the next section. The next section is going to be about types, but let's relax. We started off super quick. That was the first 30 minutes. That was good. I'm glad we got through that first piece in 30 minutes. Last time, we kind of didn't even start until minute like 20 something, and we ended up running way over. I want to be pretty, I care about your time. So I want to make sure that at least the main meat of everything, the meat and potatoes of everything, we get out of the way by 10 o'clock. And then we can just, mess around after. We can talk about some other stuff, go deeper after that. Server abuser, it will be available later. So I'm not allowed to put streams on YouTube for 24 hours until after they're streamed. So I can put the first two on there now, but they're available on Twitch now. You can watch all the other ones on Twitch right now, but they'll be on the YouTube channel. You can do !YouTube to get the YouTube channel. They will be available. There'll be a playlist of all of these things. I'll generally, because I'm doing so many, I'll probably, maybe I can get to a flow. Maybe there's a way we can automate some of it, but I might wait until Wednesday, export them all, render them all, and throw them up on YouTube all on Thursday. But we'll see. That might be a little bit jarring for people who are trying to, who are just off hours and trying to watch it the same day. So we'll see what we can do with that. I can hear it turn on the headphones. This is dope. I'm trying to make a web app, trying to get internships. Way harder than coding so far. Yeah, systems design is way harder than coding. To be honest, systems design is, I think, a lot harder than coding, because it's one of those things that it just takes you having the opportunity to do it a lot, and for you to have seen bad systems, good systems. It's pretty interesting. Average compile time. So for most people who are just writing scripts and small little applications, compile time is a couple seconds, to be honest. Depending on your computer speed, the resources in your computer heavily factor into compile time. But for a lot of things, it may just be a couple seconds. For larger applications, a lot of enterprise applications and stuff, it's a bunch of minutes. So it can range, but I've seen things, compile time take, 10-15 minutes for medium-sized applications. And then you can get into huge things like the Linux kernel, which on some, I've seen the Linux kernel take hours to compile on not great systems. Great systems can get it down to, I've seen it done in 30 minutes, there's also millions and millions of lines of code. And something like the Linux kernel, I think it's up to something ridiculous, like 23 million lines of code or something like that. But it all depends. All the stuff that we're going to be doing is going to be compiling immediately, to be honest, probably in a second or two. So I wouldn't sweat that right now. Go is wicked awesome. If I need static typing, I stick with Go. Otherwise, I use Elixir. Yeah, I do want to check out Elixir. I just don't do a lot of web dev stuff, and it seems like Elixir is used to build a lot of web apps. I know people who love Elixir. I've been to a couple of Elixir meetups, just go with one of my friends. But yeah, goes great. I really love it. Slides posted somewhere for the subs. So Cash Fiend, if you already are in the Google Classroom, you should have access to the slides for tonight. If not, I can just repost the link, or someone else can repost the link in here. The RCPS take around 30 seconds, but that includes, yes. So you can see how that will be painful. Even if your compile time is 30 seconds, you can see how if you needed to just make a change, you make a change, and now you got to recompile, and now you got to sit there for 30 seconds, and you got to wait for it to be done, and you got to run and see, and there are ways around it. There are ways that you don't have to do it that way, but again, small changes can be annoying to do on a compiled language for sure. What's the job market like with Golang? So we're going to talk about what Go is. We're going to go deeper into that next time, but it's fine to start going into it now because I'm sure people will have questions both days about it. But the job market for Golang is interesting. Golang is relatively new. Go is a relatively new language, but the market for Go is high because there aren't a lot of engineers who've gone into Go. The market's high. It's becoming used more and more. It was a niche language, to be honest, but nowadays a lot of the biggest DevOps tools are built in Go, and people are starting to adopt it more heavily. But so salaries are high, but there aren't. If you just want to be a Go developer, like a pure just Go developer, there aren't like, the market's not crazy large. There are definitely jobs. The jobs pay very well, but yeah, it's still a growing language for sure. It's definitely a growing language. But if you're in terms of DevOps, there's a lot of places who will be impressed with your usage of Go or your knowledge of Go for sure, especially in the infrastructure, SRE, DevOps plane. There's a lot of jobs for that. Let's see. The Linux kernel took me 3 hours to compile on a VM using 2 cores. Yeah, on an i7 about 8 gigs of RAM. Yeah, I've seen it take hours for sure. I've seen it go pretty fast. I've seen purpose-built computers made to simply compile the Linux kernel. But yeah, it can take a really long time. Went to workshop, pretty dope. Time to get the Go money. I highly recommend, like, this is because of Go, like Go's, what Go is used for, like highly performant systems language. Again, it's a language that was born out of Google, to kind of solve some problems that they had. The rest of the world needs that performant language. It's a language that people like to write in. Unlike Java, like people are writing in Java because Java was a big language, but now people are kind of just using it because they built a bunch of stuff in Java already, so they're kind of keeping that going. Like for the most part, people aren't. If companies don't already have a big Java base, they're not choosing to build new things in Java. They're choosing to use languages like Go, again, because of the upkeep, because of the speed, the readability, things like that, for sure. Cashman TV, if you can only get into the Google Classroom if you're subscribed. An email goes out. Another email will go out tonight. If not, I've actually been writing a script to be able to parse out people who are already in, and people who have yet to be logged in, so that I can more easily work with it. This whole thing right here, the Google Classroom thing, getting out those codes, sharing those codes with you, is the main reason why there is a Discord that I'm setting up. I set it up some last night, and a bunch of people offered to help. So tonight I'm going to be focused purely on responding to messages as well as getting the Discord fully set up. But for people who are subscribed, that'll make it easier for you to get information. Kind of everything will exist in there automatically because of the Twitch integrations with Discord. It allows me to much more easily determine who's allowed to be in, who's not allowed to be in, things like that. But there is a Slack for everyone. The Slack is for everyone. The Discord will be for subscribers only. Market for Golang is very good and only getting better. It's definitely getting better for sure. Mostly internal to Google for a while. Yep. If you have the support, yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, in the chat there, you'll probably see people saying K8s a lot. That's Kubernetes. It's built in Go. Docker's built in Go. Terraform's built in Go. So many things are built in Go because it's pretty dope. But yeah, cool. Let me get a little bit of water. And we'll go on to types. Hopefully we'll be done with all the slides by 9, so that we can just mess around and practically see some differences here and get into, again, editor wars are my favorite. We started to get into it last night, but we're going to get into it tomorrow for Python. But editor wars are fun. It'll be something that you guys can go back and mess around with yourselves to kind of see some differences, get hands-on with some things for that. All right, cool. Let's go to types. So we talked about static typing versus dynamic typing. And again, it's not typing with your keyboard. It is data types. So what are types? So I told you in the intro that I'm a 90s baby. I grew up with Pokemon. You know, my parents they're great. My parents are the best. My family's the best. But Pokemon taught me a lot of life lessons. I grew up, you know, with all the lessons that Ash Ketchum and his journeys and his friends taught me. So I like to use Pokemon to explain a lot of these things. I actually have an entire talk about how Pokemon taught us about DevOps before DevOps was a thing. But just like in Pokemon, so if anyone else is familiar with Pokemon, we have in coding languages, we have types, just like in Pokemon. So we have bug type Pokemon and Pokemon that are electric and fire and grass, and they all have their strengths and weaknesses, and they all have their, you know, the pluses and minuses. We have data types, different data types in coding languages, and these are some of the main ones. There are more than this. Especially in Go. But these are just the main ones. I want you to, you know, tonight's the intro to programming, so we'll go over more types as we get into the intro to Golang. But here we're going to be talking about some of the basic types. So first one is a string. And actually, I said I was going to edit this yesterday, just so people can see. One, a string is a list of characters, but I want you to also think words and sentences, or words and phrases. So think words and phrases. A string, you'll hear people talk about strings very, very often. Strings are just a list of characters, or a string of characters. So again, think words and phrases. This is one type. And strings, you should be thinking whenever you see quotes, and specifically in Golang. Python was a little bit different. I told you guys all something yesterday in Python, that double quotes and single quotes, you know, whenever you see any kind of quotes, think string. That is not the case here. But when you see quotes, you should think string in any language, but specifically double quotes here. Think double quotes. And I'll tell some of you might be confused on why I'm saying that. I'll show you later. You'll learn throughout this. You'll learn in the next two courses why I say that, but specifically when you see double quotes, think string, and I'm going to show you that. Let's see. Let's go and let's close some of this stuff. We're going to go into something called, let's get out of here. Let's go into the Go playground. Isn't Go a rapidly dying language? I heard even Google themselves are moving away from it. Go is absolutely not a rapidly dying language at all. It's actually a rapidly growing language. Google may be moving away from it. I have no idea. Doesn't mean it's not good for the rest of the world. Like I said, a lot of the biggest tools that are running the world, that are going to be the future of infrastructure, the future of hosting applications, the future of getting information out there, are written in Go, are supported in Go. Go is for sure growing as a language. I think if you look at the up and coming languages list, or like GitHub's like language list thing, like Go increased by like 600% or something like that, and it's like number 6 on the list or something like that. So Go is not a rapidly dying language at all. Cool. Let's see. So the Go playground, you can go to this. I'll post this here, so that you don't have to install Go. Someone asks, is there a difference between double and single quotes? We'll check that out right now. So, ignore everything you're seeing here. Like, so for Go, for an application to run, and this is the case with most compiled languages. For most compiled languages, there's some base setup that has to happen for your application to run. Again, we're going to be diving deeper into what these things mean on Sunday. Yeah, on Sunday. But this is for Go. This is the base of what you need for your code to run. Actually, minus this. This is the base that you need for your code to run. Again, if you don't know what that means, and this means, not a problem. I'm just letting you know so that you can ignore. I want you to ignore everything except for what you see in this section. So everything between these two curly braces is what we're going to care about today. So this code right here, we're going to click format just because we can. We're going to click run. And so our code's going to run. So basically what happens here in the Go playground is you type in your code here. This, again, let's use the words that we're learning. You type in your source code. Type in your source code right here. You go ahead and you click run. it gets run. Basically, it gets sent. The information gets sent to a Google server. It's probably some kind of serverless function, but don't worry about that. You'll learn about serverless here. But it goes to some computers at Google. The code gets compiled, and the output gets delivered back to your browser. So it's delivered back to your browser. So you can see here it says "Hello Playground." So all this does here is spit out. This is just a function that's used to spit out words to the screen. It's designed to display output. So everything that's in these parentheses is displaying some output. And again, what did I tell you? I told you that to display output, that or that when we're talking about data types, when we're talking about strings, think double quotes. So anything inside of double quotes is a string. All this is a string. I can put anything in here, all these letters, and it's a string. How can we see that? So in Python, yesterday we learned that you can check your types via the type function. In Go, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it like this. So you can use a printf, which is to format something, and we're gonna do something like this. We're gonna make something called a variable. Ignore this again. Ignore don't try to memorize anything that I'm doing right now. I'm just gonna set something up for you right now. We're gonna say data type. We're gonna make it a string. So this is hello playground is a string. There are other ways to do this too, but this is the common way people are doing it nowadays. We're gonna do %t comma data type. All right. So the output here, you can see here, it didn't print out the thing that I have here, but it did go ahead and print out that this data type is a string. So this is a way that you can check strings in Python. I mean, in Golang, you can see here for everyone who was looking at Python yesterday, you can see that this is more complicated than it was in Python to check the string. But again, we're just gonna be focused right here. So this data type is a string. Again, letters, numbers. But someone asked actually, what happens if you put single quotes? So we're learning, we can mess around. This Go playground is here so we can mess around. We're not worried about breaking anything. Now, we got an error. And this is because in Go, single quotes actually do not say string. So in Python and other languages, single quotes or double quotes is fine for a string. In Golang, that's not the case. Single quotes are reserved for runes. Runes are single characters. So if I dropped it down to one character, this would run just fine and let us know that this is a rune is an alias for int there too. That's not important. But in Go, remember, double quotes are the only thing that makes a string. So even if it's empty, it's still a string. And this is a string. And I can put a single quote in here if I'd like. That's fine. I can put double quotes in there if I'd like. But everything inside of the double quotes is fine and will be interpreted as the data type string. That's the first data type that we're talking about. We got that list. So again, think words and sentences, and a string is just a list of characters. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is an integer. So there are a few number types, but there are two main ones you want to talk about. And let's actually X this and let's move this right here. We'll put these together because these are two number types here, integers and floats. So we've got words and phrases, or we've got words and sentences, and now we've got numbers. Let's talk about numbers now. So an integer, going back to your math days, if you don't know what an integer is just a whole number being, no decimals. It's a complete whole number, both positive and negative. So those are things like 5 or 6 or 256 or whatever the number is. As long as it's whole, it is an integer. But what happens if I go ahead and type in 256 and hit run? It tells you it's a string. Why is it a string? We just typed in numbers. I told you there's a number type. Again, I told you to think quotes. Whenever you see quotes, double quotes, think string. Those double quotes now make this a string. A string is different. It's a different data type than an integer or float. We're gonna talk about floats in a second, but it's a different data type. So all we gotta do, let's remove those quotes. So now, if you see a number that exists, a whole number, you don't see any decimals, you see a whole number that exists without quotes around it, this is a number type. And so it's an integer. And so you can see here, it lets us know that the type is integer. And again, remember, integer means whole numbers. If you need to go back and look at some algebra videos, go ahead and do that. Feel free, it's okay. Do your best to remember that an integer is a whole number, and that is a type in programming. Across the board, integers are a type. So those are whole numbers. What happens if you want to throw a decimal in there? What if we want to put pi in here and we want to go 3.14159? I don't know, maybe that's it, maybe that's not it. I said it yesterday, nobody corrected me, so hopefully that's it. But these are floats, and it says float 64. I don't want you to worry right now. I do not want you to worry about the 64 on the end of here. It's a float. It is a float. Decimals are or non-whole numbers are floats. And whole numbers are integers. And again, just to show you both positive and negative, this is still a float, and without a decimal, this is still an integer. Positive or negative numbers, they both work. They both work. So those are two. Now you know three different types. You now know three different types. Let's cover it again before we go to the other ones. Because I think these are the most simple, and these are the ones you're gonna be working with probably a vast majority of the time. Are strings, words and phrases, things words and sentences. It's a list of characters. And again, remember specifically in Go, remember that it's a list of characters, because again, we learned a little bit about the runes, which are a single character, but it's a list of these characters. And again, what tells you something is a string? It's double quotes. Maybe I'll put all this in double quotes. Make you know that it's double quotes. All right. So we've got our integer, we got our strings, we have our integers, which are whole numbers. So these are our numbers, and we have decimals, which are our numbers which are not our whole number. So numbers with a decimal point in them. Real simple, shouldn't be too hard. Hopefully everyone understands that. Hey all, late to getting here tonight. What did we cover before? Variable data types. This was a lot of the stuff from last night. We just covered the difference between interpreted versus compiled programming languages, as well as like statically typed versus dynamically typed, some of their pros and cons, some of their benefits, things like that is what we covered before this. That's what we covered before this. Cool. So let's go to the other types that we have. So Booleans. This might be the first time you're ever hearing about Booleans, if this is your first time learning anything about coding. And Booleans are simply true or false values. Not even true or false values, it's true or false. And in different languages, you have to type them in different ways. I think they have to be capital in Golang. Nope, it's not capital. It is lowercase. All right, and so it lets us know that our data type is bool. And so if this is your first time seeing this, you might look at that and be like, hey, that's a string, like that's a word, it's a list of characters. Nope, you don't see any quotes there. If I put quotes around it, what happens? Put quotes around it, go ahead and run it. That makes it a string. That is a different data type. This true is not equal to this. So these two things are not equal. And we'll talk about comparison operators. But this true on the left is not equal to this true on the right at all. And the quotes are what tell you that. So this true is type Boolean and false is of type Boolean. These are the only things that are of type Boolean. True is Boolean, false is Boolean. Nothing else is a Boolean. So that should be pretty easy to follow. Hopefully that's not a crazy concept. It might just take you some time to memorize the word and memorize that it's true or false, but I don't think the concept of understanding those is too hard. Now we're gonna talk about, just really quick, we're gonna talk about arrays and slices. This sometimes is hard to explain to people, but an array or slice in Go, so Go, by default, you're gonna get slices. And actually, I don't even think I can even, it sucks. In Go, I can't even create a slice like this. I don't think, but it is a list. So we talked about a single thing. We talked about one string. We talked about one integer, one float, at a time. But what if we wanted a collection of strings? What if we wanted a list of iterable items? We'll talk about what iterable is, but what if we wanted a list of strings? Like maybe we wanted a list of colors. And so these brackets are gonna kind of denote it a little bit. Let's say purple. Let's say yellow. And let's say, man, I cannot type. And let's say red. This is supposed to be a comma. This is gonna fail. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Unexpected. Let's talk about here. But yeah, this should fail because I don't think this is the right way to create a slice in Go. Don't worry about that. But it's a collection of items. So a collection, you'll see these with these. You can do some things with curly braces, etc. But there is a data type. There are data types that allow you to create collections of things. So maybe you want to store a bunch of different values in them. Coding languages allow you to do that. And they're what's called iterable, so you can move through them. These have actually space values. So like these slots are important. Where they are is important. They're positional. It actually is called something. It's called zero index. So this is actually the 0 spot. This is the 1 spot. This is the 2 spot. You can move through these things. You can iterate through them. But this is a collection of things. It could be like numbers as well. In Go, for the most part, it needs to be a collection of the same type. This would be, so this data type right here, if we had something that was like this, the type of this, I'm not creating it properly. I'm gonna show you guys how to create one in a second. But this data type in Go actually is not just called a slice. It is called, it's called a slice of ints. It's a slice of integers. And that is important. Remember we talked about being very explicit in Go. This would be, it's either, I can't remember. It's either like this or it's after. I'm pretty sure it's before. It's before. But it's a slice of int. Or if it was words instead, if it was words in sentences, it would be a slice of strings. So those are different types. A slice of int and a slice of strings are actually different. But I don't need you to know. I don't need you to know that right now. I just need you to know that there is a data type that is a collection of other data types. And that is important to know. Yeah, you can do this. This actually makes it a slice. Adam put this in here. We'll copy what he put in there. We'll put the 3 here. And actually, I think it's, I actually think it's this, but I think after that, these are curly braces. I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah, you do have them as curly braces. Okay, they look like square brackets because my thing's small. So this is actually going to return an array. Actually, whoops, tripping. Gotta tell it the type. Sorry about that. I'm tired. This is actually in Go. Yeah, we'll dive into it. Let's go ahead and dive into it. So slices. Most languages have an array. Like arrays are pretty universal across the board. But Go has something called slices, and this has to do. There's performance reasons for this, but we're gonna dive into it a little bit. This number, like putting this number in here, lets this know that it lets Go know the compiler when it goes to compile. Remember I told you it does all this processing beforehand. It's actually going to be like allocating memory slots and all kinds. It's going to be doing all kinds of stuff during that process. And this number right here is telling this that I want an integer. I want an array of integers, and I want you to create it with 3 slots. So it has to have exactly 3 slots. So if I do something like this, if I do like 70 and I do this, this is gonna fail because it says array index is out of bounds because I said there are only supposed to be 3 items here, but you see that there are 4. A slice actually, I don't think this is gonna work. Oh, that does work. A slice. So now you can see actually that this is now a slice of int, but if I do a 3, isn't this different? No, it doesn't. Okay, so this is actually a slice. If you do not specify how many, this is something called a slice, and all a slice is an array. It really is. It's an array, but there's some underlying features that allow you to be able to extend what's in a slice. So a slice can have basically unlimited values, whereas an array is permanent. So if I made an array of three things, and later on in my application, I wanted to add something to it, I would have to basically create a new array that had 4 items in it. And then I would have to move everything from this array to the other array. It's super crazy. It's a lot of work. A slice will do that automatically for you and go. Like without the number, it sets up some underlying things where you can make this grow automatically. So right now I could easily just go in and add 40. That'll make sense later as well. But yeah, so again, there's this data type that is a collection of other types. So these are just the main ones I want you to know. There are more than this in Go, but strings, list of characters. Whenever you see double quotes, that means string, and that is a list of characters, that is words and sentences. Integers, so now we have some numbers. Integers are whole numbers. Floats are decimal numbers. Booleans are true or false, not true or false values, not truly falsy, true or false. The words true or false. They're actually lowercase here. And then we have arrays and slices. So this is an iterable collection of items. So someone asked the 0, the 1, and the 2 spot. Is that universal for all languages or just Go? That is just about every language that you're going to touch. That it's going to be, the arrays are going to be, the iterable items are going to be 0 indexed. So that is something, it's a very important thing to remember. That these collections, the first spot is the 0 spot. So even though I said there are 4 things in here, the way that you talk about their placement, the way that you refer to them is, this would actually be, it's gonna be confusing, but you would actually refer to the first item in this list as data type 0. And if I wanted to get to talk about 5, that would be data type 0, 1, 2. So if I wanted to print 5 out, it would be referred to as the second spot. So it does always start at 0. 0, 1, 2, 3. Even though there are 4 items, it starts at 0. And we'll do a lot of, you'll see, we'll make that very apparent in some of the practice problems and things that we're going to be doing. I almost said for a reason, math languages such as Fortran, MATLAB, Erlang start at 1. Okay, I've never used any of those. Most general purpose programming languages like JavaScript, Ruby, all of them they're all gonna be non-math based, I guess. Computer programming languages are going to be 0 indexed. All right, so now you know something about data types, and hopefully now that even if you don't understand each and every one of these, hopefully now you can understand a little bit about the static versus dynamic typing here. Remember here, we had to it's telling me that this is a slice of int that's very specific. In other languages, when you check the type, it'll just say, hey, this is an array. Hey, this is a list. This is a dictionary. Hey, this is a string. And this you have to be very, very specific here. So again, what do we go over? Let's see if we can do examples of a string. Would be, actually, someone in the chat, go ahead and give me just any example of a string. I'm going to copy and paste it in here, but someone just throw out something that is a string. Just throw me out something that's a string. I will copy and paste it. I just want to make sure you guys are getting string. If you already know what a string is and you already got this, don't do it. But yeah, let someone throw out something. If you want to paste, if anyone wants to throw out something else, we'll run it. Is that a string? Yep, that's a string. So I'll actually let you look at it first. So we're gonna copy in them for life. What do you think is gonna happen with this? Do you guys think this is a string? We'll run it. Nope, that's not a string. Why is it not a string? What did I tell you? I told you to think about quotes. Quote it up. So if you want to make anything a string, you want to throw those double quotes on each side. You must open, you must close, and run it. And now you have a string. or else I'm gonna paste it just because this is gonna be fun. Is this a string? So this is very interesting. And you probably actually wanted me to do this a little bit differently, but is this gonna be a string? We've got quotes here. It's gonna be a string. No, it's not gonna be a string, but that's, the whole thing has to be wrapped in quotes, but don't sweat that. I don't want to get you super confused, but there's got to be quotes on the very outside, something for it to be a string. Fish sticks are not as good as chicken strips, which is, again, I keep saying every stream that I don't like to speak in absolutes, but then someone says something that is an absolute, and this is 100% true, and that is that fish sticks are not as good as chicken strips. Not even close, never will be. If you don't subscribe to that, you are incorrect. Again, this is an absolute. Cool. I like this. I like this here. Let's go ahead and paste. I'm gonna paste this in. What do you guys think is gonna happen here? It is also a string. I actually shouldn't have been. In my mind, some of you are going to be confused to know if it was a string or not, but the people who would have been confused by that would have had to know about special characters. So maybe I jumped the gun a little bit there, but ooh, I like this one. This is a good string. This is a good string right here. Take a look at this one. What do you guys think is going to happen here? We're going to talk about escape characters in a bit. What do you guys think is happening here? Let's take a look at the string. We've got an open quote and a closed quote, so that looks kind of good. Or I guess technically this is going to be the closed quote, and we've got one here and one here. Got this single quote here, but it's inside. We already saw that it's inside double quotes, so it should be good. But then we've got these slashes in here. These I don't know if it's a forward slash or backslash. I don't know. I don't know the direction. Someone tell me, maybe I'll remember this time. I've looked it up 40,000 times in my lifetime, and my brain is allergic to remembering which one's forward slash or which one's backslash. But okay, cool, it's a backslash. Why is it a backslash? I don't know why it's a backslash. Because it's not leaning forward. It is leaning forward. Well, okay, you're right. It's leaning back. If this is, this is his feet. If this is his feet, it's leaning backwards. You guys, you did it. You did it. You cemented it in my mind. It leans back. It's falling. This is great. I don't know. No one told me this. No one told me this, because I was always like, oh, forward slash. Like, look at it. It's sloping forward. Maybe it's a forward slash. And then I would see the other one, and I would think the other one. I'm like, that one's also sloping forward. Like, maybe that's a slope. Like, they're both sloping forward depending on your perception. It's leaning back. It's got feet, guys. It's got feet. This is perfect. All right, I'm excited about that. All right, so this is a backslash. I almost forgot just that fast. It's a backslash. What's gonna happen here? What's gonna happen? Gonna run it, and it's still gonna be a string. So this is always a confusing thing, especially when you're going to a new language and you're trying to figure it out. This is always a weird one because these backslashes, because it's leaning back. These backslashes are something that's called an escape character. So escape characters basically, they basically take you out of the paradigm of, they basically tell the interpreter or the compiler to, hey, do not do not interpret this thing as a part of this string, interpret it as this special character, or don't interpret this as a special character, interpret it as a part of the string. You use it to change the way that the interpreter works with or understands a character that comes after it. These get super important sometimes, but these escape characters can be very confusing. They can be very confusing sometimes. So when you're learning a new language, as you make your foray into escape characters, you'll see that they do different things in different languages. And we'll mess around a lot with those, with some messages and things like that, and some of the scripts and some of the little applications we're going to try to work on. But I'm hyped with you guys telling me that it's falling backwards. Yeah. English is left to right, starting. So to the left is back. Okay. I like the leaning back thing. I'm a visual guy. I was thinking of reading left to right is leaning back instead of falling forward. Yeah, it's leaning back. You thought it was a backslash because you thought the feet were up at the top. Are you letting us know that you do handstands when you're bored? No, I do not do handstands. I'm heavy. No, I don't know. That's very interesting. I mean, if it's a slope, it is like, I mean, if you're skiing, it's sloping for it's. I don't know, sloping forward. It's a slash. If you're going from left to right, the slash is. I mean, well, I guess either way it's moving forward. So I guess I thought they were both forward slashes. I don't know. Leaning backs. I love that. I'm gonna teach people that, and I'm gonna say it's mine. I'm gonna steal that from you guys. It's got feet. It's feet that's leaning back. All right, I love it. I really do. I really do appreciate it. That's crazy. That was like the last boot camp. Someone taught me about. I've been using Linux for years. Someone taught me that you could do, if you want to go back a directory path, like to the last directory path you were at, you could just do a CD space minus, which is amazing because I knew about git commands, and if you wanted to check out the last branch you were working on, you could do, checkout minus, like git checkout minus. But like, I never knew you could do that with CD, and like, it blew my mind, and it saved me so much time. That one thing, it saved me so much time. I love it. It's amazing. It really is, and I'm so upset it took me years to see it or to do it. Cool. Forward is not the proper slope direction. I'm sure that's true. I'm 100% sure that that's true. Only positive or negative. All right. Cool. Yeah, hopefully we mess around a lot, but all right, so we mess around with strings. So let's look at some numbers again, just real quick. 567. Oop, not a number because it's got the quotes. Let's just go ahead and remove the quotes. It is of type integer. Remember, integer is a whole number. Let's go ahead and throw a decimal point in here. We've got a float. What happens if you put 2 decimal points in here? That's not a thing. Numbers can't have 2 decimal points in them. So that's broken. But let's go ahead and make it a real number again. That's a float. We do true. We've got a Boolean value. We do false. We have a Boolean value. And if we do, let's do string. We do string of red, comma, blue, comma, green. And all right, and green, this will give us our last data type that we talked about, which is an array or a slice. This is going to be a slice, but it's going to give us a collection. It's going to give us a collection of things. And this actually just means slice, a slice of strings. That's what this little thing. But cool. We've learned the basic types here. And again, we'll learn more, but those are the basic ones that I want you to know about. Going back to arrays, what would be the Go equivalents of Python dictionaries? Great question. The equivalent to Python dictionaries would probably, most of the time I see people using structs, but we're gonna go over that to do it, which is very interesting. But you can also do, we're gonna go by example. This is a good, if you want to get a little, if anyone wants to get a head start, you can take this. And go by example, we're going to be doing some things. Yes, so yes, maps is absolutely the thing that is most like a dictionary in Python. But because I've seen so many people live in an object-oriented world, I see a surprising amount of people using, I actually never thought to do it this way, but I've seen a surprising amount of people use structs to do dictionary or key value pair type setups, which has been very interesting. But maps are definitely the way that you would do that. And so you can see here, it's weird to make a map but it's just a key value pair. So if anyone doesn't know what a dictionary is, think about a real dictionary. Think about a book that you take and you look up a key. So if I need to know what the word water means, water bottle means, I'll look up the word. That's not gonna be a word in a dictionary, I don't think. But if I need to know what it means, I go ahead and look up the key, water bottle, in the dictionary, and then it gives me a value, which is the definition. And that's what dictionaries are. So basically it's a key value pair. So if I wanted, I don't know, I could have a name and a grade or something like that. And they could be one piece of the dictionary. They could be one slide of the dictionary. You can do the same thing. You can do the same thing in Go with maps. And again, oddly enough with structs. I'm going to show you guys because I thought it was so weird at first. I thought it was the weirdest thing ever at first. And I'm going to show you guys how you can use structs to do, not make dictionaries, but operate in a dictionary type structure. It's gonna be pretty interesting. But that'll be later. That'll be for fun. Maps is definitely the way that you want to do that. That you should do it. All right. Yeah, now let's go dive deeper into typing a little bit. So dynamic typing, we talked about type inferencing and being strict about your types. So I have a little example over here. So types are evaluated at runtime. So interpreted languages, the types aren't evaluated until you run the application, again, because there's no compiling. So it's evaluated at runtime. So when you run it is when types are evaluated, and therefore errors present themselves at runtime. So remember, one of the benefits of compiled languages is that silly errors are caught at compile time. For interpreted languages, that's not true. They get caught at runtime. An interpreter may infer your type in order for the code to run properly. So an interpreter will, in a dynamically typed language, it may try to, just so that your code runs properly, it may try to infer your type. And again, may is the keyword here. They don't all operate the same, and I'll show you that compared to Python. But in JavaScript, if we have two different types, so we just learned about types. This is type int. This first 5 is type int. The second 5 is type string. If you try to add those things together in JavaScript, you'll go ahead and you'll get 55. And I'll show you that real time. So we're gonna go into the JavaScript interpreter. JavaScript has an interpreter right here, and we'll go. So Node.js is just the JavaScript runs in the browser, but Node.js is the server, or is the code that you can have so you can run it locally. So this will interpret our JavaScript for us, and so we'll do 5 plus 5. So these are actually two integers. And if I hit enter, it gives you 10. That's what you would expect. But what happens if I make them two different types? One's of type integer, one is of type string. And when I hit enter, now we get 55. Why do we get 55? Again, this is because this is a dynamically typed language. The interpreter, actually, let's move this down, go back up. All right, the interpreter did exactly this. It inferred a type in order for the code to run properly. So all the interpreter did is it said, hey, you went ahead and you gave me an integer and you want me to add that to a string. I don't know how to add the value of an integer. Add the value of a string to an integer, but I know how to add two strings together. So I'm gonna go ahead and convert one of these to a string, and I'm gonna go ahead and stick them together. So you can add strings. So I can do like hello, and I can do plus world. And JavaScript will go ahead and it'll stick those two things together. So basically what it does is it automatically infers a type here, and it goes ahead and just tries to make it work so the interpreter doesn't die. Let's take a look at how a different language does it, like Python. And if I do, again, 5 plus 5, and so this is the Python interpreter. And again, 5 plus 5 is 10, that's great. But 5 plus 5 integer plus 5 string, in Python, it actually doesn't work. So that's why I wrote may here. And it tells you here, unsupported operand types for plus, int, and a string. So it's letting you know you have two different types, and I don't know what to do to add them together. So dynamic type language, they won't all do it for you, but it may try to infer type. There are other languages. I don't know how Ruby, do I have Ruby installed on here? Let's see how Ruby does it if I haven't. Ruby installed, IRB, I do have it. So let's do 5 plus 5. So now we're doing something in Ruby, and Ruby says 5 plus 5 is 10. But I actually have no idea what Ruby's going to do with this. But 5 plus 5 doesn't work, and a string can't be coerced in an integer. I think I did say the word string coercion. Maybe I didn't, or type coercion, not string coercion, type coercion. And that's it. That's it. Trying to coerce a type into another type to make things work. So not all dynamically typed languages will allow stuff like that to work, but there are other combinations that will work. Now let's take a look at what happens when you do that in Go. Let's go back to the Go playground and let's delete this. And let's delete this. And we'll go ahead and do 5 plus 5. Just to make sure you know we can do math. And this says, can I use 5 plus 5 type int as type string as argument for printf? So we've just been introduced to our very first statically typed thing that is bigger than just two different types. This entire function, so typing is so strict in statically typed languages that I can't even pass in non-strings to printf. Like this function can't even accept a non-string. So for this to work, I'd have to go. And actually, I don't think this will work either. But we'll run that. Oh, it does work. Okay, for that to work. So, but if I want to do print 5 plus 5, print should take whatever I throw at it. But this should fail because it can't do it. It can't do it. They're two different types. It doesn't know what to do with it. It can't do it. Whoa. It doesn't know what to do with it. So I think that goes to the next slide for static typing, just to show you the difference and why that's so important. Types, again, you have to be very explicit. Types are explicit. Functions and things, you have to tell, like that function, printf, that couldn't accept a non-string. When that function is written, you have to say, hey, to run this function, I'm going to give it one thing. I'm going to give it one thing, or I'm going to give it two things or three things, and they have to be of type string, or they have to be of type integer, and I'm going to do some work, and then I even have to say the value that I'm going to give you back. So if my function is doing something and it's going to return some information to me, I even have to say what type that return value is going to be. So if I want to give you back a string, I have to let it know beforehand, before I do anything, that I'm going to give you back a string, and I can't return you any other thing, which is very, very interesting. So it looks like people have thrown some scenarios here. Let's see, tree select concatenate. You can use TypeScript instead of plain JavaScript. Absolutely. What happens if you use a string as the first operand in Ruby? Great question. Let's try it out. I love that people are asking these exploratory questions, and as you're learning the code, this is what you should be doing as you are running through, as you're learning things. Don't be afraid to mess things up. Like, mess around. Like, see what happens when you do different things. Like, yeah, follow tutorials, do all the, like, you should be doing that stuff, but mess around and see what happens when you're doing things. So someone says, what happens if you make 5, you say if you had 5 plus 5 in parentheses. Oh no, wait, that's not the first thing. What if you use POE Brewin Bob? What if you use the string as the first operand in Ruby? So string first, plus 5, nothing, no implicit conversion of integer to string. And let's see if that error changes. All right, so the first one says no implicit conversion of integer to string. So it's saying that I didn't try to convert the second thing to match the first. It says no conversion of integer to a string, so I didn't try to convert this integer here to a string. But here, it references the first one again. It says string can't be coerced to an integer. So both times it's taking a look at the second thing and it's saying that basically you didn't do anything to convert it. Let's see. Out of curiosity, so we did that. What happens if you had 5 plus 5 in parentheses, like print 5 plus 5? Let's check that out as well. Let's see what will happen. So do you mean Let's take these away. I think that's what you want. Run. And that works. But I think you may have been asking that for when we ran printf. And printf won't take it. But print will. And maybe just mess around with a couple things. This won't work. Will this work though? In parentheses, still gives you 55. Yep, so that doesn't matter. Or in Go, you cannot print ints. Go can print integers. I could print 5. But before we were using this printf. So printf means it stands for like format print. It's a formatted printing function. It allows you to be able to format strings. And this will not allow you cannot print integers like this, like directly. You could do it if this was a variable, but you can't just print out an integer like that. It needs to format it into a string. Same type in Python. Will it be coerced on the first values of the type? Great question. Let's hop into Python. Let's make this first one a string. 5 plus 5 can only concatenate string, not int to string. So basically, it is using this first option as the main option, is saying, hey, this looks like it should be a string. I can't add this integer to that string. So it's trying to do that. And if we switch it up, we will probably get an error saying the opposite. Okay, this just gives us an unsupported types because it knows that like the plus is an addition operation. And it's basically saying, hey, I can't add a string and an integer together. So it does give you different types. It doesn't give you different errors based on what you pass in first. So print prints anything. Yes, I think print will print anything. Commonly you'll see, and again, these are all things we're going to learn next time. Honestly, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but that's fine. You won't see print a lot, and I'll show you why. Well, it actually won't make sense in the Go playground, but you'll commonly see this print, which is print line, which is, these two things are the same thing. So print, let's say print hello world, this and this are generally are for the most part the same thing. The only difference between these two, actually, it actually shows you here. So take a look at this. Look at the spacing there with print ln, which is print line. But if I just do print, look how the spacing's different. All print line does is at the end of the string, it inserts a new line. So if we were to do this from the console, it will basically, once it prints out the stuff, it will kick everything else down to a new line. If you don't kick it down to a new line, everything just kind of stays on the same line, which can be annoying. You can achieve the same thing with print by just doing this, adding in a new line character, and you can see now we still have that space. But same thing, don't sweat that. We'll learn the difference between the print statements. We'll do a lot of practice with the three of them. I'll show you how to format things. I'll show you why print line is important and why print is also important, but you probably won't use it that much. All right, so that's all the type stuff. That's all good. So we'll take another little break here. We'll stop. We'll take it in. We learned about types. We messed around. We did some practice problems, just to kind of see how types interacted with each other. So now you know those things are different. Those a 5 of string and a 5 of integer, they're two different things. And it's important to know that they're different. All right, so going back to numbering, ordering of slicing starting at 0. What's a real world example when you would have a list like that and need to type code that told you what's in the 5th place? Great question. I just see that example as a test question, but can't think of real world. So that is an excellent question. So it may be something like, I don't know, like a shopping list. Maybe you have a shopping list, and you type out, let's see, keep let's create a new, can I make this any bigger? I can't make that any bigger. Let's just go into, we'll go back here. Let's say you had a shopping list. So maybe list.txt. We'll do it in Python. So let's say you had a shopping list. That'd be dumb. Hold on, let me think here. A world example. I don't know. Maybe. Let's say you're a radio station. Say you're a radio station, and people are sending in Maybe people are submitting something to. Maybe people are sending in their names or something. They're submitting some things to be able to win a prize. And let's say that everyone's entering stuff, and you tell everyone that you're going to pick the 400th candidate. Well, right now we're going to say the fourth candidate. The fourth person to enter in their stuff is going to be the winner. So let's say Aaron is the first person to input his stuff, and I submit something, and it goes into the computer, and I get the first slot. I get thrown into this collection of people, but I'm first. I'm in the 0 slot. Let's say Candace is the second person who enters. Let's say then Tom comes next, and let's say Sarah is next, and let's say Jim comes after, and let's say Tony. We're just putting a bunch of names in here. Let's say hundreds of people. Let's say hundreds of people have entered their names in here, and you have been collecting their names into this list. And you said, hey, the fourth person who enters their name in is going to win. Your program would then need to select. I can go ahead and I could first print. It's not really a good real world example. There's no good real world example because real world means different things to different people. We wrote scripts today that were position based, where we had to pull out information based on their position. But let's say we're taking everyone's name and we don't know what position we want to win yet. First, let's run this really quick. And if I just print out everyone, I have this whole list of people. But let's say I wanted to change this to be able to select. Again, we want to select the fourth person to enter. This is going to be the winner. One, you need to know now that the fourth person. If I type in 4, let's see what happens when we run this. So we get Jim. So when I said the fourth person was going to win, I plugged in 4 into my application, and it gave me the fourth person. So did it give me the fourth person? Is Jim the fourth person? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So actually Jim's the 5th person to enter his data into this contest. So I lied to everyone. I said the fourth person was going to win. The 5th person actually won because these things are 0 indexed. So if I really wanted to get the fourth person, I need to specify 3. Off by 1 errors are a big thing in programming. But this, I don't know. On the fly, that's the best example I could think of. If you wanted to select, real world thing to select a number in a collection. I don't know. But again, maybe, I don't know. I did this. It seemed like a great idea when it first came to mind. But I don't know. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. But yeah, so real world for us, like today, like when we were writing this script, it was to get positional data in which we created these collections here. We created that based on splitting up a bunch of data. So basically, we took a bunch of data that was similar, and we actually split it up. And when we split it up, it moved different pieces of data into certain positions. And so maybe it would put someone's first name in the 0 position, and last name in the 1 position, and it would put their address in the 3rd position. And maybe our script was to take that data and reformat it so that now I only needed their address and maybe some other information about them, and I could automatically, using that positional data, parse out. I can parse out all the information. I have their name, their address, last name, and things like that. But I can select just the information that I want, and I can use that to build new pieces of data, and I can grab just the data that I need from that positional data. Again, it's hard to it's hard to talk about until you see it real time. But we do have some exercises that are going to allow us to see it. Most of string manipulation as opposed to list manipulation in the real world. Same concept of pulling data out. You can index that. Yeah, fifth letter in a word is a good example. That is a great example. So let's go back into, actually, because this is the DevOps one and we have Go, let's see what happens here if we do. So in most languages, most of the data types are something called objects. That's not super important right now. But like, let's say in Python, I could take a string and I could say, hello, my name is Aaron. And actually, can I do it just like this? Let's see. What is the fourth slot here? Cool. You can also use these. Strings are also iterable objects, basically in a lot of languages. So I have hello, my name is Aaron, and if we're looking for the fourth item here, the fourth indexed item here, it is O. And why is it O? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's actually in the fifth spot. Why is that? Again, because it's zero index. So the H is in the 0 spot, the E is in the 1 spot, the L is in the 2, L is in the 3, O is in the 4th spot. So you can use that same thing for strings as well. I wonder if I can do something like this. Like, what can I change O to, like G? Okay, I wonder if that was interesting. I wanted to see if I could probably do it if let's see something real quick. A test. This is for my own. Gratification here. So I set a variable test 4 equals G. Okay, no, you can't. Object does not support. Okay, cool. I want to see if I could change a letter by changing its assigned number spot. Python strings are immutable. Perfect. We learned something new today. Strings are immutable in Python. And I knew that. I don't even know why I was even trying that. I definitely knew that. But cool. What were we just talking about? Completely forgot. I don't remember what we were talking about. Real world. Create a DF from a table on a Wikipedia page. You need to specify which tables, if there are multiple tables on the page. Yeah, you can do that. Am I on Chrome OS? No, I'm not on Chrome OS. I am on Pop OS, which is an Ubuntu-based distribution. This is Linux. It's running off of a Linux a laptop. It's pretty heavily customized. I'm actually, one of the Friday streams is going to be so I'm going to do some office hour streams if anyone didn't hear. On every maybe every other Friday, and I'm going to do a whole one on how I like my whole setup and like how you get from literally a blank canvas, like if you have a virtual machine or something, even if you have just a stock Ubuntu, to be able to get a setup similar to mine. You can have a different background, you can have different icons, whatever. But a lot of people have asked like about all of my setup. I'll share, so I can show you how to do that. Cool. Let's see. Time is 9:38. Cool. I want to get into editor wars in a second. Cool. We have just enough time. This is perfect. So this is just a quick chart here on some of the different programming languages, and then their speed and efficiency for running versus their fast and fun level for people to actually write. So here's the axis. This vertical axis over here is the fast and fun for humans axis. So the higher it is vertically means the faster and more fun humans can write it. It's enjoyable for them to write. They can write it quickly. And then on this horizontal scale here, the farther along it is, the higher up it is, farther to the right it is, means the faster it is for computers to run, fast and efficient for computers. So you can see up here, Ruby, Python, Perl. So it looks like Ruby is all these are on the same level. They're on the same level of fast and fun for humans. But you can see Ruby's kind of the slowest for computers. Python's next, and Perl is a little bit after that. Then we jump up a little bit in JavaScript. All these are on the same level. all four of these are interpreted languages, interpreted dynamically typed languages. So again, remember back to the comparison chart. Compiled languages were fast for computers, and interpreted languages are not quite as fast. And you can see that here, pretty low on the fast and efficient for computer scale. Everything over here, things like C, C++, Java, and Go, you can see C and C++ are over here super high, super fast, super efficient for computers, but real low on the fast and fun for humans to write. And this is where compiled languages get their bad name from. They generally have been really hard to write, or not fun to write. Like, you got to do a lot of stuff. It's ugly. It's not very readable. Then you got Java here, which is a little bit of a hybrid. So, kind of fast and kind of fun for humans to write, kind of mid-level, and pretty darn fast for computers, but not the fastest. So you make some trade-offs here. But then you see Go here. And Go is kind of, super high up on the fast and efficient for computers, as well as super high up on the fast and fun for humans. And that's why Go's a good choice. That's why people like Go, because it's a little bit of both. It's surprisingly simple and easy to read. I know when we hopped into the Go playground right now, it made it look that way. As we start building things with it, and comparing it to some other languages, you'll start to see, like, yeah, it's definitely a readable language. It's pretty easy to write and figure out what's going on. So it's a good combination of both, and that's why people like it. Where would Rust go? So first I nuked the pave 30 minutes before start and went Fedora 31. I like Fedora. I was gonna give Fedora a chance. I might do that in a VM. Let me know how you like Fedora. Let me know how you like Fedora 31. For sure. Where would Rust go? Rust would probably go way over here in the fast and efficient for computers, and probably right above C++ for fast and fun for humans. Maybe about the same, but it would be pretty high up here. It would go somewhere in this area, I think. Let me know if you feel differently, but I'm pretty sure it would do that. Yeah, it's definitely, I've heard good things about Rust as well, but it is very C-like in writing it, from everything I've seen and heard. Is C# efficient for computers? It is. C# is efficient, but it's not quite as efficient. Yeah, someone said, Adam says perfectly, it will go somewhere, around here. Fun for humans makes me question Java and JavaScript's placement. That's funny. That's very funny. Oh, anonymous share. Thank you for the 100 bits. That's awesome. That Java and JavaScript placement. That's fun. That's funny. JavaScript is fun for humans, especially for like, I don't know, especially for beginners. It's super fun for beginners. That instant gratification. You can do so much magic with JavaScript. I've learned to appreciate JavaScript. I hated it for a while. But I'm getting there. Node made JavaScript tolerable. TypeScript made it more tolerable. I'm not a Java fan though at all. Definitely not a Java fan. But cool. All right, let's get past this so we can get to the fun stuff. This is a link here I'm going to share with you. This just covers more programming languages, lets you know what they're good for, what some are good for, what people use them for, popularity, things like that. And it goes through a bunch of them. I think it's valuable to run through, just if you're new to this stuff, and so you have an understanding kind of programming languages, relationships, and kind of who's using them, things like that. I just think it's a valuable thing you don't need to run through it tonight or anything like that, but bookmark it, check it out, definitely read through this list, because there's a lot of programming languages on here. It may be a bit outdated, but I think it's a pretty good list, for sure. I use Node.js at work for APIs and microservices. Yeah, we do too. The project that I work on, we use Node.js for a lot of stuff. And again, I don't love it, but I do like it. I like it, and I understand its appeal. You can do a lot with it. I really just don't like JavaScript because of NPM, to be 100% honest. Like, that ecosystem scares the heck out of me. But besides that, it's pretty good. Make those freaking callbacks. Yeah, callbacks, man. Callbacks is one of those things that it really took me. It threw me for a loop kind of pun intended, but it definitely threw me for a loop. The first time trying to learn it, like it took me a while to like wrap my head around what's going on. I don't know why it took me so long. Well, callbacks were tough for me for some reason. Virtual Basic, damn. A lot of support of Java application, my last job, and I hated it. Yeah, I do not like Java. I'll have to use PowerShell. I don't use PowerShell at all professionally. I have used it to automate some things on my local machine, on my Windows PC. I don't use it a ton. If you are managing Windows servers, PowerShell is excellent. If you are managing Windows servers and Windows machines, PowerShell is great. But I don't really use it because I generally don't manage Windows machines. I use Syntax Sugar, like async await for callbacks. Yeah, yep, same. Will you be storing these streams somewhere, uploading them to YouTube? Yes, they will be going to. They're gonna pile up on Twitch. But they do go on YouTube. There will be a YouTube playlist. There's currently a YouTube playlist of the last run of this. These will be going up as well. I like I said, I found out that Twitch affiliates actually aren't allowed to upload to YouTube for 24 hours. Because I'm streaming every day, I might just upload everything the full week of things. I might upload them to the playlist on Wednesday. Once everything's done, like right after that's done, I'll render all the videos. I have them all recording at the same time I have them streaming, and just render them out. Cut out the beginning with the intro music because that gets my stuff copyright striked. Cut that out and then go ahead and upload those. So they will be available for people. You'll be a few days behind if you need to catch up on some of those things. But again, you can check it out on Twitch at any time if you need to. But they will be on YouTube. So just subscribe to the YouTube channel. There's also going to be Friday YouTube video drops. Every Friday there will be YouTube video drop. Again, there won't be tutorials. There'll be higher level things like going over specific topics or specific topics of getting in the tech industry or advancing in the tech industry. So keep an eye out for those if you're interested in something like that. All right, the last thing. How do we write code? We talked a lot tonight about everything but how we actually write the code. We talked about how the code that we write gets translated for the computer. We talked about, the different things that are involved in that. But how do we even write code? And that is where text editors and IDEs come in. And this is where the editor wars start. People are passionate about the editor that they use. So what is a text editor? What's an IDE? So all a text editor is an application that allows you to modify a file to input text into it. So no matter what programming language you're using, a text editor is just a program that opens up files for you and allows you to input text in those documents and allows you to edit text in those documents. That simple. Technically, Microsoft Word is a text editor. So think about Microsoft Word, think about Google Docs. You use those to open up files that have words in them. And that's what text editor is. But text editors come with some great things that make it easier for you to be able to edit code faster. Things like syntax highlighting. You saw some of that already. Things like auto completion. There's a bunch of little extras and tools that text editors add that help you be able to write code faster and more efficiently. IDEs. What's an IDE? IDE is the same thing. IDE is a text editor, kind of on steroids. So IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. And so what that traditionally has been is usually for a single language. So for a very specific language, let's say Java or Go, you'll have an IDE. And basically the IDE is a text editor it's bundled in with tools, different tools and plugins and things to make your experience in developing in that language very, very good. So it'll give you tools for debugging, easy tools for auto completion and syntax highlighting, and it gives you all the things necessary to work within that language that you're working with. And again, generally these are language specific. So I'm going to show you a bunch of IDEs. The lines are definitely blurred nowadays. The text editors, the popular text editors, have such an ecosystem of plugins. You can basically extend them to basically be an IDE. So like you can make your VS Code or your Sublime basically have all the features that an IDE would provide. So basically, whenever you see text editors and IDEs, they're pretty much, they're for the most part, they're synonymous nowadays. They have some minor differences, but nowadays they are pretty synonymous. I have a couple of things right here. Someone was mad last time about not having Adam up there. We're gonna take a look at we're gonna take a look at all these real quick. So, it is your choice. So I've actually been surprised at how like overwhelmed people have been when hopping into a text editor. I really want you to think about it like this: like a text editor is purely there to open up a text file and to write in it. That's all it's there for. Well, not all it's there for, but like that's what it does. Like I've had a lot of people like think it's this much bigger thing that you got to like set up all this stuff. Generally, IDEs do have like a little bit bigger of a setup process. You usually have to point it to certain packages and set up workspaces and things like that. But for the most part, you're just using these to open up files and edit them. So this one right here is Visual Studio Code, and we're gonna hop over to the website really quick. If you do bang VS Code, it'll take you to the link to install it. And it should give you the package that's available for your computer. But VS Code right now is my recommendation for if you're learning the code and you're just diving into this stuff. Visual Studio Code is the tool for you to use and to download and check out for a number of reasons. We're going to open up VS Code right now. Go to the website first. So VS Code is made by Microsoft. It's open source, so it'll work on Linux, Mac, Windows, no problem. So why do people love VS Code so much? Why is it the tool that you want to do? One, make sure you're downloading Visual Studio Code and not Visual Studio. They are different products. Visual Studio Code is the one that you're going to want. But why do people like it so much? One is the ecosystem. The ecosystem of plugins and tools and packages that are available to you so that you can edit in whatever language that you want is vast, it's quality, and it's very easy to install. So I'm going to open it up real quick just to show you. But other languages, other editors don't have quite as robust of a plugin workflow. So I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code. And we have this file here. We have this thing that opens up, and over here on the right is just my folders. It's simply folders, and I can go in deeper, and I can open up a file. So you can see here, these icons on the left are actually telling me what kind of file each of these are. So I've got some visual representation of those things, and I can open up, something, and it gives me some cool colors, and I can go in here, and I can type or do whatever I want to do in here. So that's one thing. But the plugins, the extensions that I was talking about for VS Code, all you got to do in here is I don't do any Ruby, but if I want support for Ruby, and I want the cool things that this package provides, you can see millions of people have downloaded this. All I got to do to use it is click install. I don't have to do anything else. I've got to do nothing else. It's installed. I don't even have to restart the program, and it's ready if I want to open up a test.rb file. Now you can see here that it like throws the icon next to it, so we know it's a Ruby file, and now my editor knows it's a Ruby file, and I can do, I haven't written Ruby in a long time. So I started typing in something, and it gave me a suggestion to autocomplete, and what it does is it auto fills in a bunch of information for me, so I don't even need to know all the syntax, and my method name is, this is a test. I don't know. It's just cool. It's all this functionality was added from just installing that little extra thing, and it was so easy to do. Other editors like Sublime and stuff, it's not as easy to just install things like that, and to be able to add functionality to it very easily. So that's one of the reasons why people like it so much. The next reason is its Git integration. So explaining what Git is to you is a whole different thing, but basically Git is a way to manage the versions of your files, and to make sure it's a history of your files. Basically, it's a version control system, but the Git integration is really nice here as well. So if you're not someone who's super command line centric, it's a good way for you to be able to manage your versions very easily. 3 is that it has a really cool built-in terminal feature, so you actually never need to leave when you're developing. You actually never need to leave this window at all, which is super nice. And that's not unique to this at all, but that's cool. There's a live share feature, so I'll actually be doing this with you all. I can give you a link and it'll connect you to a server here, and we can edit the same code base, the same file at the same time, which is super nice. So that's cool as well. And it's pretty performant, especially for an Electron app. Pretty fast, pretty quick. Starts up pretty fast, opens up files pretty fast. And again, they make great updates to it pretty often. And as someone who has to write a lot of documentation, I love VS Code because of their impressive documentation, especially when it comes to things like updates. Look at these change logs and stuff. Like, it's got GIFs in it and everything, and tells you what's going on. Like, I don't know. It's a great product. So I highly recommend that if you're new to all this, Visual Studio Code is the one that you should download. Some people might not like that, but it is absolutely what you should download if you're new. So I would download it as soon as you can and check it out. Some of the other ones that we have here, I'm gonna go into Vim last. Vim is my favorite. That's why I put it to the right, but I put it just a little bit above. It is not the one that you should download if you're new to this, but it is my favorite. But Sublime, let's check out Sublime really quick. I'm gonna pull them all up real quick. Sublime, Atom, and maybe I'll get them all installed. Atom Editor. What else do I have here? I had in Jet. Let's go to JetBrains, and let's go to Notepad++. All right. So Sublime. Sublime is a little bit older. Sublime has been popular since Sublime Text 2. It's on Sublime Text 3. It's been on Sublime Text 3 for forever now. It is a freemium model, so Visual Studio Code is completely free. It's open source. It's FOSS software, so free and open source software. Sublime Text is freemium, so you can download it for free. You can use it in unlimited amounts for free. The only problem is it has a paid model. And what it'll basically do is every time you save a file, like every third or fourth time you save a file, it'll basically give you a little pop-up saying, hey, I hope you like it. Maybe you should buy it. But you can click cancel and keep moving. You can use it forever without buying it. But I do recommend, if you like it, you can buy it. One of the benefits of Sublime Text is it's fast. It's very fast. Opens up files super quick. It's got a fairly robust package system. It's hard to install stuff. It's a little complicated to install stuff, but it's got some good plugins and stuff for it as well. But again, it's clean, it's quick, it's got a lot of great features, so it's cool. A lot of people still use Sublime Text. I do have a paid license for it. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I would definitely give it a go. Like, again, you might love it. A guy on my team, that's what he uses. So give it a go. Atom is another big one. I did not put Atom on here. I did not put Atom on here because I can't recommend Atom. I said this last night. I can't recommend Atom because Atom is slow. It is very slow to me. In my experience, I've never seen Atom be fast. Other people's computers, Atom, when you have to open up large files or large repos, oh my gosh, Atom is so slow. Now, this is the nature of Electron apps. So Electron apps are JavaScript apps or Node.js apps that run on the desktop. So web-based apps that are running kind of on your desktop. A lot of apps suffer from this, but Visual Studio Code is an Electron app, and it's much faster than Atom. Atom is built by GitHub, so big reputable name. That's why I don't understand why it's so slow. I think GitHub could do better. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful editor. It's well supported. It's got a vast plugin system as well. It's got some cool themes and packages and stuff that are easy to install as well. It's just slow. It is it's uncomfortably slow. In my experience, it's uncomfortably slow. You should check it out. You should absolutely check it out because it's easy to install. It's also open source. But man, again, it is beautiful. You can see all this is beautiful, but it is. I every time I've used it is painfully slow. Cool. Electron is just a framework. Electron is just a JavaScript, Node.js framework that allows you to build desktop applications in JavaScript. So again, JavaScript is a web language, but Electron is a framework that allows you to build desktop applications using JavaScript. And so we looked at that list. We looked at thing here, you can see that JavaScript isn't the most fast and efficient for computers, and that's why it's basically Electron apps. It's great because they could pretty much run on anything, but it's not incredibly fast. So you can have some things that are kind of slow. Let's see. Time tags. I'm still annoyed that Terraform 12 linting isn't properly handled in VS Code right now. That's true. That's very true. .12 is really nice though. I really like .12 syntax for Terraform. The changes have been amazing. How much autocomplete I use? I never passed a Google interview. I've never interviewed with Google, but if they're not going to allow me to use a common editor, then I will also fail. I've definitely become pretty reliant on autocompletion. I use Vim, and Vim has some decent autocompletion for a lot of stuff. I try not to use it all the time, but it just makes everything so much faster. We'll do that. So Microsoft owns GitHub, and they make VS Code. Who supports Atom? That's an excellent question. Again, I think they're both open source, so the community supports them both. But I'm sure they have internal teams that support Atom. They probably won't put as much time into this as VS Code, and I'm fairly confident. Like, VS Code has become so big, I'm fairly confident that VS Code will eventually eat Atom. Again, especially as you said, Microsoft does own GitHub. To make you use Google Docs to code, that would be funny. That would be very funny. So if anyone the Crow said using Google Docs to code, again, these text editors, they're just applications that edit text. You could write your code in Google Docs or Microsoft Word if you'd like. I don't recommend it, but you could. You could absolutely do it, and your computer would be able to run that code if you did it properly. Also, if you use PowerShell or WSL, you can do code dot from a developer folder. Yes, actually, I did that, and you guys didn't know what I was doing. So Visual Studio Code is down here, so I could use that to open up Visual Studio Code. But if you're not on a Mac, Macs don't have this by default, I don't think. I think you have to put in a command to do it. If you're in the terminal, if you're in PowerShell or command prompt, to launch code, to Visual Studio Code, you just type in code, and it will go ahead and launch. We'll go ahead and launch it. Pseudocode in Google Docs, that makes sense. I can do that. I mean, I would prefer not to. They could just give me an editor, but yeah, cool. So let's take a look at some of the other ones. So we talked about Atom. I should have just downloaded Atom. Maybe I'll download it so you can take a look at it. Maybe we can see real time on how slow it is. No. Oh no. Okay, there we go. That was fast. Let's go ahead and get this installed really quick. Let's see what that looks like. While we're doing that, JetBrains. I do want to talk about JetBrains because we haven't talked about any IDEs yet. JetBrains is a company who makes IDEs, so integrated development environments, and they have a lot of them. One of the problems with JetBrains is that most of these cost money. A decent chunk of change, but it can be very valuable if you're someone who's working heavily in these languages every day, using these tools every day. They have some great tools, some great integrations that'll really help you develop faster in them. I put this on here, so for anyone going through the Python course, PyCharm is a huge IDE for Python specifically, and the Community Edition is free. So I do recommend you going through and evaluating PyCharm. I actually really like JetBrains IDEs. I love them, actually, but I usually don't recommend them off bat because as you're learning, you don't want to be dumping money into anything. You can get like free trials on some things. Like I've given, they have one for Go. They have one for just about every language in here. Go, I have one for Golang. I really liked it. It really helped. These are generally better when you're deeper into your coding career and you're working on large projects and you're working on projects, complicated projects. IDEs can be helpful. It gives you, every tool that you would need to really interact with that language. But I would recommend, trying out some of their products, downloading them. You can usually get it if you have a .edu address. I think you can get it for free. But I don't have a .edu email address. But check out JetBrains, it's pretty cool. But all their stuff is IDEs. They have a IntelliJ based one that you can just install plugins to do whatever you want. But you can see here they have stuff for C and for Go and for PHP and Ruby and C#, and they have stuff for everything. And they also have some other tools as well. So they're cool. You should check them out. But again, these IDEs cost money. Most of them cost money. So just caveating that there, but they are quality products for sure. And if anyone else likes their stuff and wants to hype them up, because I've had good experience with them. Let's see, experiment with Sublime. Sublime is like a steep learning curve so far. Yeah, it is. VS Code is both use an IDE as well as just text editor like Notes, etc. Yes, VS Code is like the all-arounder. It's really good at it's good at just about everything that you need it to be for. I've seen people taking notes with it all the time. I prefer a different app for notes I love this app called Notion, that's free, but I'll share that with you guys later. VS Code works for just about everything. JetBrains for bootcamp, wind up purchasing them for personal too. Yeah, I am gonna happily. I'm doing more and more development, and I think I'm gonna be purchasing. I might be purchasing their stuff as well. PyCharm and IntelliJ. I get so shall learn C++ or C first. In the end, I want to know C++, but it's worth learning C first. That is a hard question. Learning C will make you a better programmer. It'll make you a better programmer, like all around. But it's going to be time consuming. And although it'll make you a better programmer, I don't know if it'll necessarily make you a better programmer if you just learned C++. I'd probably tell you to learn C++ if your goal is to learn C++. But both of them are going to be relatively steep to get into. But I would say just go straight into C++, to be honest with you. PyCharm and IntelliJ, both are free. And have shareware versions. Yeah, free version. PyCharm community version is free. Regex search and replace the Sublime is pretty good, but VS Code has it as well, and it's pretty good. It was secure earlier, but where is Go typically found and used? Great question. We're covering that next time. But so Go is a systems language. Again, it was born out of Google to solve some of their problems, some of their scale problems, and it's typically used, as like backend services. So it's not really a good. There are some frameworks for front-end frameworks and stuff for it, but it's generally used for back-end microservices and things and building fast and performant tools. Again, a lot of major DevOps tools are built out of them. Things like Docker, things like Kubernetes, things like Terraform are built out of Go, but it's really a systems language. It's generally used on the back end to build like web services and things like that. Can I bother you whenever you can with a question about my roadmap to DevOps? I got a doc link to share. Are there any changes you would do to the roadmap? I'm currently on a Linux Academy subscription, so I want to take full advantage of it. Oh yeah, I would be happy to help you figure out that roadmap. If you want to share it with me, I'll definitely take a look at it. So VS Code rock something next day or two. Cool. Oh yeah, let's get back into this editor wars just a little bit. We're at 10. I've shown you most of the stuff. Notepad++ is like old, tried and true. It doesn't have a huge like plug-in stuff, but if you're just trying to edit some code, it does it well. It's clean, it's fast, it's fine, it works. But I don't think it's the best. But it works. It works. But my favorite thing to use is Vim. So I'm here to indoctrinate you guys a little bit. Again, if you are just learning how to code, if this is like your first foray into any of this stuff, Vim's not for you. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Vim's not for you, and Vim won't be for you until we get after the Linux portion of this course. That might help, but right now, trying to learn Vim will be very tough for you. But Vim is a text editor that runs. Actually, let's open up Atom. Let's actually see if Atom opens up quickly. Vim is a text editor that runs in. Oh, look at Atom. That's kind of fast, even though it's spinning. Not completely fast. Let me open a project really quick. Okay, let's go. Okay, Atom. All right, maybe maybe I was too mean with Atom. Adam's quick now. That was fast. And it looks good. Okay. But yeah, so check out Atom if you like Atom. I'm gonna add Atom to this because that was pretty quick. I like that. But yeah, so Vim is an editor that lives inside of your terminal. Your terminal is just a program that you use to you can use it to control your computer. You can use it to basically submit commands to your computer. And really, your terminal is an interpreter. Has something called a shell on it, which basically interprets the commands that you send to it, and you can use this to administer your computer. Vim lives inside of here, and so I'll go to my documents, and what do I have in here that I can show? So actually, I can actually show you. So the project that I work on is the small. I work on the main digital footprint of the Small Business Administration, and so this repo is actually open source, so it's okay if I show you this. We've open sourced a lot of with the Small Business Administration stuff. So this is our main repository, and Vim, open it up like this. Vim runs in here. It is a modal editor, and this is what trips people up so much. It's a modal editor, so it has modes, and you need to go into different modes to do different things. Mine is actually heavily customized, so if you were to hop into Vim right now, it wouldn't look like this. You wouldn't see the same things. It wouldn't have the same layout. But I do have a Vim settings that you can copy, but if you've never messed with it, then I would have to show you how to do that. That's why I'm going to do a whole setup tutorial one day to kind of get your stuff to look like mine. But Vim has a steep learning curve because it's modal. You can't use your mouse inside of it by default. I can because I set up some stuff, but like you can't use your mouse inside of it by default. You have to use your keyboard to do just about everything. So it takes a long time to learn. It takes a long time to learn like the key bindings and like what you want to do. So let's open up a file. Let's open up some files in here. So let's open up like a main thing right here. And so right now I'm just hitting keys. And so let's say like, my cursor's over here on the left. If I want to get over to the right to be able to edit stuff, I have to do, a control WW to get over there. And let's say I want to do something like, let's say I want to type. So by default, if I start typing, it will not start typing. It'll actually probably do a bunch of crazy stuff and you'll probably be confused, and then it might start typing after that. But I have to get into a mode. So basically it's telling me right now that I'm kind of in normal mode, which is just me kind of going around my cursor. To get to where you can type, you got to like hit a button. So I have to hit I to go into insert mode. And you can see here, went into insert here, went into insert here. And now I can start typing if I'd like. To get out of a certain mode, you have to hit escape, and you can see that went away down here. And so I'm no longer in insert mode. So if I hit some other things, like nothing really happens and weirdness happens because I wasn't in insert mode. But again, a lot of key bindings, there's a lot of learning to do. So, but once you learn it, you can go a lot faster. So like to delete a line, I can hit D twice, and I've done that. And if I need to retype, I can hit O and I can start typing now. And if I want to undo, I can just hit U. And if I want to copy and paste, I can Shift V and I can yank this away and I can paste it a bunch of times, or I can undo, or I can Shift V and I can cut this out, and then I can go around and I can paste it here, paste another file. But I had to take the time to learn all these shortcuts to be able to do this stuff. And again, once you learn the shortcuts, it's fast. Like it's a very quick editor, but it's also got things like all the things that you seen me do. So like let's say I want to go to new line and I type in console. I can get autocomplete here, so I can do console dot, and I can get options here. by hitting Control N because I've set it up this way. And I can go console.log and I can start typing. So I could use it in the same way. I can get all the same functionality out of this. And again, I can do everything from the keyboard, and doing everything from the keyboard can be a lot faster. Obviously, I'm not going to do that. One of the most searched questions on Stack Overflow, or at least it used to be, I don't know if it still is how do I exit Vim? So people usually get into Vim. Now let me get rid of my nerd tree over here. People usually get into Vim and maybe they figure out how to edit a file, but then they can't figure out how the heck to get out of it. So it's modal. So remember, I type stuff, escape gets you out of your mode. Like, how do I exit? Like, how do I get back to where I was? And so let's see how many Stack Overflow. Let's see how many. This one was asked in 2015. So look at all these. Look how many upvotes this has. That's a ton of upvotes on how to do it, and this tells you how to do it. But you've got to go into. So we're in command mode. So we've got to issue. We've got to hit colon to give it command to go into command mode. See command down here, and then we have to give it some commands. So I can do a lot of stuff. So command mode's great. I can do Q to exit. Q is how you exit. Colon. Q is how you exit. But if I hit enter, I can't exit because I've made changes to this file. And it basically says, hey, this is just like Microsoft Word. If you make changes to a file and you try to exit, it'll say, hey, you sure you want to exit? I don't think you want to exit. You made some changes to this. Do you want to save first? That's what this error says. Hey, no write since last change. But I do want to get out of here. I don't really want to save this. So I'm gonna go Q, exclamation point, and that's gonna force an exit. So you can see now how that can be confusing. Like, oh, you gotta know these commands to like get in and get out of a file. That's pretty wild. But there are a lot of other shortcuts. Like if I wanted to save it, like let's say I wanted to, let's modify the README really quick. Let's say I want to change installation to installation the best way. I want to make this change. I've written it. I've got to get out of insert mode. So I hit escape, and to get out of it, to save it, I do W. So W means write, and that's how you save it. And you can see here it's written, and then Q to get out. I could have done that in one line. I could have gone colon WQ, and that would write and quit. But you can see how like that learning curve of doing this would be very high. But again, the payoff is great. Let me show you some other real cool things. So like Vim, README, so I can navigate really fast. So like if I know I want to get down to line like 28, I can do just colon 28, takes me down, takes my cursor down to line 28. Now, I'm using a plugin called Quickscope. Actually a guy who used to work with me at SBA wrote this. His name is like Unbelievable on GitHub. But you can see here how these letters are highlighted. There's a lot of functionality built into Vim for you to be able to navigate via keyboard very fast. So this is the F key. So basically I can hit the F key. Actually, did I do anything? Whoa. With the cursor at the beginning, I can hit the F key, and then I can hit I can hit a letter, and it'll take me to the first instance of that letter in the line. And that's what this plugin does. It shows me the first instance of the letter. So if I want to get, well, let's say I needed to, because you can't use the mouse. Well, I can use the mouse again because I set it up that way. But by default, you can't use the mouse. Let's say I needed to get my cursor to be like near the end. I could do like F and then P, and that would take my cursor all the way over here because that's the first iteration of P. And it's a way to kind of get around faster. So like once you start learning these tips and tricks and you start putting them together, you can move so quick. And if you want to search a file, like if I want to search like sba.gov, you can do this, and now I can see sba.gov is here, and I can go to the next iteration and the next one, and the next one. And that's actually the only place it is. Or like best, you can see here highlights up here at the top. Hit N, it takes me to the next iteration. Yeah, you can move very quickly, but again, the learning curve is pretty high. So I'm actually gonna do some kind of a one-off Vim tutorial. Like there's a Vim adventure you can learn, but I might take like a Saturday or something and do a Vim tutorial just to get people into it. I do like it as my editor, and so I've set it up to be a little more of a IDE, so I have my files over here on the side, and I can open up things like split screen if I want, and I can compare left to right. But yeah, It's a cool editor. It does everything that you need it to do. Another reason why people like it so much is because like I come from a systems administrator background. So I used to have to be in servers a lot. And a lot of times when you're managing machines, this comes by default on like every single Linux distribution that you would get. This is the editor that comes on it, Vim or VI. So VI is the editor. Vim is VI improved. I don't know, does it make any sense? It's VI improved, so it's Vim. So it's like the next iteration, but like VI or Vim is going to be available just on just about any distribution. And so that's why people have gotten comfortable with it and continue to use it. And again, once you learn it, you can do everything pretty fast. So if you watch a lot of the top live coders, like I think there's a guy called the Primesian, and maybe I'll rate him since I'm actually about to cut off pretty soon. Maybe we can rate him and you can check him out. He does everything in Vim. You can see how fast he edits code and stuff, just because it's so much faster. But yeah, Vim Tutor's nice, but Vim's dope. I want you to think about, don't get into Vim right now. Again, if you're just learning this stuff, I want you to know what it is because people will talk about it. And as you get deeper, as you start to learn some command line chops and everything, you start to understand what it is that we're doing. I want you to think about like starting to dive into it. I want like before this is over, before this 12 weeks is over, I want everyone to have installed Vim and given a go at like every now and then. Try to edit a file here, try to edit a file there. Learn each week learn like 1 or 2 shortcuts or commands that might make you better at Vim. And before you know it, you'll be great. You'll be great at it, and just see if it's something that you might like. Maybe you won't like it. I like it because one, again, once you learn the stuff, it's pretty fast. But I'm trying to get better at touch typing and I'm trying to get better at keeping my hands on the keyboard to do everything, like not even just in programming, but like a bunch of stuff. So like, and I'm kind of big into keyboards now. So like, it's also going to help me get better at just like typing faster. Like that's one of my goals this year, to type a lot faster. I'll be a better touch typist. But yeah, Vim's really cool and just something I think everyone should check out. It is what I use full time now. I do all of my development inside of Vim. But even saying all that, I still think VS Code is the thing for a vast majority of people out there. VS Code is going to do what you want it to do. So that is actually it for tonight. We can stick around for a while and talk about some other stuff. But if you're here to learn the stuff, that's the end of Editor Wars. And, give them all a go. I would download them all. I really would download a lot of the major ones. Try them out. Like, it's completely okay to try them out. See which ones you like. You may just like the way one looks better than another one. And that's the reason you want to use it. There's nothing wrong with that. I spent hours getting my colors right. I spent days getting colors and plugins and everything right. So it's okay. Like you can do whatever you want. I just want you to know about the options that you have. I want you to know about the options that you have. It's okay to try different ones out. But they all basically do the same thing. They really do all basically do the same thing. VS Code does most of it a little bit better, but they all do the same thing. So that is that's for the most part. For the most part, it. Close the terminal. Yes, closing the terminal is a semi-valid way of exiting Vim. The only problem is then it leaves this weird open file, like hidden open file, which is weird, but you can do that. There's also a shortcut, like Shift-ZZ is what I use, but to get out of Vim. But yep. You can install Vim on Windows. Yes, you can install Vim on Windows. What about if we work on Windows servers? If you work on Windows servers will come with like Notepad installed. Most of the time on Windows servers, I've seen people just install Notepad++. To be honest, it's a great option as well. But you can install Vim on Windows as well. What keyboard do you have? Yes, so I have a. Let's see. This is a Cooler Master Keys Pro S, but I have some custom Mastermind inspired JTK Arctic keycaps on here. I've showed other people, I've showed this a few times. I'm building my own right now, so I have a KBD Fans 60% tofu. It's white. It's a white aluminum case. It's nice. I'm struggling over here. Well, you can see here, it's white aluminum case. I'm actually gonna throw these keycaps on there. I ordered the Zelios V2, I think the 67 gram Zelios V2 switches for it. I got a little test switch over here somewhere, and I love it. It's fire. This one has brown. This has brown switches. I got the Zelos V2s. I might lube them up. But I'm gonna be building a couple keyboards because like I love I'm recently into the custom mechanical keyboards build scene, and it is like it's the coolest thing. It's cool. I love it. It's really cool. It's gonna be weird getting used to a 60% keyboard, but I'll figure it out. I'll be all right. Vim customizations rabbit hole is definitely a thing. Oh my gosh. Computer customization period is a thing for me, at least. I've been with this setup for a while, but like I work better if my environment is beautiful and it's cool. So I've definitely spent some time making it really nice. I switch it up fairly often. I've held this for a while. But yeah. You have a dedicated home lab? Well, actually, I keep missing stuff. I keep scrolling down. Any cheat sheets for stuff to install as plugins for VS Code? It depends on what you're working on. I'm gonna give you all the stuff for Go. It all depends on what languages you're working with. There's not many generic things. Out of the box, VS Code has like a lot of stuff that you already have. But long belly, good night. Have a good night. Oh yeah, recommended extension section. Yeah, you can check that out. Do you have a dedicated home lab? No. No. Well, I don't know. What do you mean by home lab? Do you mean like a networking lab and stuff like you mean like that? Because I don't, because a lot of the stuff I do, like I'm a DevOps guy, infrastructure guy, like I use the cloud for everything. So every time I need a lab or do something or learn something, I just use I go ahead and hop on AWS or something and spin up infrastructure that way. Yeah, no, I don't have any like servers at home or anything like that. No, I use the cloud or my computer for everything. Like this computer is pretty powerful. It's got 16 cores, 32 threads, and a lot of memory and stuff. So like I'll spin up VMs locally and stuff. But for the most part, I just use the cloud for a lot of stuff. 60% is where it's at. I have a 60% that working full size at home. Yeah, I mean, I've never used 60% before. I think that I'm gonna like it. Again, learning curve is gonna be there, but I think I'll be fine. I think I'll like it, and then I'll be frustrated going to my laptop keyboard because it's too much stuff. And my muscle memory from all the key presses are gonna be all weird. Thanks for putting the series together. Absolutely, I'm glad everyone's came through this. Like honestly, the turnout for this run is. I've been floored these past 3 or 4 days. That so many people have showed up. I'm glad that so many people want to learn and are interested in getting into this stuff, for sure. Vim comes super handy for 60% keyboards. Yes. So my only concern, King Juice, is the escape tilde key. I mean, I use Linux and tilde is pretty important. But like getting the muscle memory of having to use like a modifier key to be able to switch between the two, I am worried about that, but it'll be fine. It'll definitely be fine. Right now I'm using a remote connections to connect to WSL or dev-env in a container. Yeah, that works. I actually really like Windows Subsystem for Linux. I really like it. It's really made Windows a viable development platform for me. I don't generally code on Windows. I code on this laptop for the most part. Just because I honestly prefer Linux for most things. But if I do need to get some stuff done, WSL has made it reasonable for me to do so. What's hot now? CloudFormation, Terraform all the way. I do not learn CloudFormation unless you need it for your job. Do not learn CloudFormation. It is confusing. It's unintuitive. Terraform is where it's at. Everyone's looking for it right now. It's basically the industry standard. Yeah, like on our project we write both. We started out with CloudFormation. Now we're doing a lot of stuff in Terraform. Still got to manage both. Got a lot of templates out there. CloudFormation is. I don't like CloudFormation, man. I really don't. So someone was telling me. The other DevOps engineer on our team today was telling me about Amazon's CDK. I guess they have a cloud developer kit where you can, I guess it's kind of like that Pulumi app where you can like use coding languages like, I don't think you use JavaScript, but Python and stuff to also provision infrastructure. Haven't used it, but it sounded promising. So maybe check that out as well. Distro, I'm running Pop OS from a company called System 76. This is a System 76 laptop. Let's see, it's just it's just a laptop, a System 76, which they make Linux laptops. And they like, you know, make their own custom firmware and stuff, so to make sure all the hardware and stuff works with the software. So they're a pretty cool company, but this is the computer setup. It's basically a reskinned Ubuntu with some extras again to allow them to administer your computer a little bit better. I really recommend installing Pop OS if you have a computer with an NVIDIA graphics card. I can't tell you how many times over the years I've had to install Linux on a computer with an NVIDIA graphics card, and it was a hassle. With Pop OS, it is so easy. So if you want to get into Linux, and you're thinking about installing it, even if you want to install it in a virtual machine or whatever, I do recommend Pop OS. I really recommend Pop OS. Pretty nice. Won't look like this for you out of the box, but it'll look close to it for sure. Let's see, maybe for Python course, any plans to get into building web apps, like using a framework? Yeah. So on the DevOps course, we'll probably be building out a web app when we get to the serverless section. When we do serverless, we'll probably be building out a serverless web app. Probably a Node though, maybe Python. Maybe we'll do it in Python since we're doing Python for some other stuff. But yes, but we will be building out a web app, a very rudimentary basic web app though for the Python course, because the Python course is really a programming course. We're just using Python. So like a web app, we probably will for practice, but not, it won't be super crazy nice. Now, like I said, maybe you missed it, but the next iteration of these boot camps, we're going to be running 3 12-week sessions throughout the year. And there may actually be more than 2 running at a time. But there's more info on that. But the next iteration will be a more advanced DevOps. So we're going to do intro. We're doing the intro of both now. The next iteration will be more advanced DevOps and more advanced programming sessions. So like it'll be 12 weeks of intermediate to advanced things. So we'll go way deeper, and we'll the plan is for this one to actually do take I'm actually working with a company right now who I'm trying to get them to give me their legacy infrastructure. Like, we're gonna change some stuff, but I want them to give me their legacy infrastructure. We're gonna take legacy, after we learn all this stuff, we're gonna take legacy infrastructure, a real application, a real company, and we're gonna convert things into microservices. We're gonna automate things. We're gonna change the entire flow. We're gonna set up pipelines where they don't exist, from a real company. Like, we're really on the job. So that's the goal over that 12 weeks. So I'm working hard on that right now, trying to get them to give me their stuff and seeing what stuff we have to change and whatnot. But the next iteration of this will be probably 2 advanced courses, advanced programming, probably with Python again, advanced DevOps, or intermediate to advanced DevOps, intermediate to advanced programming, as well as probably beginner cloud computing. But I probably won't teach the coding one. I'm trying to see if anyone's actually interested. I'm working with someone right now who says they're interested in teaching it, but I'm trying to find someone who has the time and who can commit to it. But yeah, we'll talk about a little more about that later. Let's see. I use 70% because of Vim. That makes sense. Couldn't do 60% with no tilde. Yeah, with tilde, especially for JS. That's fair. That is what I'm worried about. I have escape map to JK, KJ. That makes sense. Yeah, I should be able to remap my stuff. What about serverless? Yes, we're gonna be making some serverless. So we're talking about serverless. Serverless is cool. Misnomer, it's not serverless, obviously. Everything that's running is running on some kind of server, but one of the you just don't care about. But you mean versus Terraform? they're different things. They serve different purposes. Everyone's always like, serverless or containers. It's like, no, they both have their places. They both have their place. Kubernetes, all that stuff, like Terraform, they all have their place. They're not really they're not really at odds. I wouldn't use. I've seen people use Terraform to manage their serverless functions and stuff. I don't necessarily like that. I think there are some better frameworks and stuff for that, but. Pulumi looks really good, but even more beta than Terraform. Yeah, they're just late to the game, but I do like what they're doing. I think it's pretty cool. Terraform is just a juggernaut right now, so it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard for them to compete. System 76 is a cool company. They'll be creating laptops based on their own design this year. Yes, I'm super excited about that because right now, System 76 basically takes Clevo and Sager laptops, which are like reasonably priced, like Chinese laptops, and then they add their software over top of them, and they manage the software over top of that. But this year, I think they just started their R&D in January for their own laptops. They actually have their own desktops, which is really nice. They manufacture their own desktops, which is really cool. But I'm excited to see about their laptops. Like I've been using this for a little over a year now, and like I said, it's served me excellent. And so again, I love Linux. I've dealt with Linux for years now, not having to worry about messing with drivers and stuff. Like as someone who just wants to get some stuff done now, even though stuff is fun, if you just want to be productive and not have to worry about that crap, man, like if you want to start using Linux and dive deeper into this stuff, I 100% recommend grabbing a laptop from them so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Is there anything WSL is lacking for you not to use it full time? Yes. A few things. There's some speed problems and there's some networking problems. The biggest thing that will stop me from using it full time right now is WSL 1. They're working on WSL 2. WSL 1, you cannot do Docker natively. There's some hacks you can do to install Docker on Windows, and then use TLS to map into the service and things like that. But if I do that, then I can't run virtual machines as well. So the biggest reason, Docker and Kubernetes are the biggest reason that I can't use Windows Subsystem for Linux right now full time. And then there's a few other things they still haven't worked out. But again, WSL2 is like I've tested it and it is amazing. But there's no I have no idea when it's going to be out. But that's the biggest thing. Cool. I would love to get your thoughts. I've been working IT ops, so that's where I started. Currently senior support engineer for NAS build on FreeBSD. What would you recommend a path moving out of IT ops into the DevOps landscape besides the basics? Just learn dev. So what's funny about that is I don't think you need to learn dev to move into DevOps. To be 100% honest with you, I think you need to learn the cloud. Once you learn the cloud, you may already know the cloud, but because of the nature of the cloud, it allows for automation. So I would learn the cloud and tools around automating the cloud. So again, things like Terraform, that's probably what I would go into. There's a lot of DevOps roles that are really just like cloud systems administrators. So it's very IT ops-esque, just with some infrastructure. It's basically infrastructure automation roles, where you're still, managing your servers and things like that, but you're just doing it in an automated fashion. I think the concepts that you can learn from something like Terraform will also help you ease into the dev side of things, because things like Terraform, like infrastructure as code stuff, like configuration management platforms like Chef and Ansible and Puppet and things like Terraform. It's code, but it's more configuration with some coding logic available to you. So I think it kind of helps ease into the dev side of things. I do think the more dev you know, the more powerful DevOps engineer you can be. But I do not think you need to know dev to be a DevOps engineer at all. I think you honestly just need to know, have some automation chops. So even if it's just Bash, like understanding how to do some of that stuff, and learning some of the tools that'll help you automate infrastructure, I think you can stay on the IT ops side of things and still get DevOps roles. But if you've been in IT for 12 years, you're good to go. The problem is your experience will allow you to get roles. The problem is that might mean you have 12 years of antiquated thinking. I don't even want to call it antiquated thinking. I mean, that's the way things were done. That's the way things still are done. But it does take a little bit to break the mind mold of realizing that servers don't need to be treated like pets anymore. Immutability is a thing, speed is a thing, and so just like changing your mindset of how you're managing systems can be tough. And sometimes you can't really like change your mind until you get to see it in action. But yeah, do your best to be open-minded about some of the things. Your 12 years of experience will make you a great DevOps engineer, because we said last class that DevOps is born out of the experiences of its practitioners. That experience, the things that you've seen, will really help you build more robust infrastructures, more robust automation, because you'll know what to look out for. Like, you'll be able to solve problems faster. So like it really isn't that different. I'm serious. It really isn't that different. It's the same thing you've been doing, but it's now administering those things using code rather than manually, to be honest. Yeah. And so I wouldn't say just learn dev at all. I don't know the appropriate question, but what has been your experience as a minority in the industry? I'm Hispanic myself, so I'm curious about your experience in tech. So this is an interesting one. This actually, as a minority, I guess just like anything else, it has its gifts and its curses. So one of the biggest thing is, the bro culture is real. Like in the tech industry, the bro culture is kind of real. And so I'm not even saying that's necessarily a terrible thing. But as a minority in tech, like not having grown up in that or not knowing how to interact in that has caused some problems. Like I've had jobs where like no one spoke to me because I don't even think we knew how to interact properly, because it was just a culture that I was so unfamiliar with. I was the odd person out. That's why company culture can be dangerous. Like I actually hate, even the place I'm at now really harps on culture, but like culture, while yes, you want to keep your company culture, but no matter what, that means you are inherently like really being exclusive. You're cutting out people who may be great for your company just because they don't have the cultural background to fit in at the same place, and that can be a bad thing everywhere, honestly. But so I found that's where I found my struggles. Luckily in tech, because there's so many unfilled tech positions. The higher and higher you get into tech, like I haven't found that people like are like, look at this guy, like maybe he's not for us. I have had one experience. I've had a few experiences like that, but those were fine. I generally feel that like everyone's giving me a chance to like really know, like see what I know. And I've been able to prove what I know, and I haven't had really any trouble as a minority in tech. But one of the big things I've seen though, as other minorities in tech, is again, just your amount of exposure to the culture can really cause friction. It really can cause friction, and it can be rough. So like, it sucks having to say you have to learn to assimilate a bit. I mean, things are changing a little bit. You definitely have to learn to assimilate a bit, but if you're not someone who's outgoing, like I have a pretty strong personality, so like I don't mind really putting myself out there when I go play. So generally, I'll have to go and be active in putting forth my experiences and my culture to not be so homogenous with everyone else. And it's worked out for me. I've seen other things elsewhere, but again, I think tech is one of those industries where it's not, being a minority is not as much of a boon as it is everywhere else. Of course, you'll come across people who just don't gel with you because culturally you're way different than them. Like I've had someone tell me basically, like in enough words that like, yeah, like you're just a little too urban. It was for a customer facing role, and like basically they were just like, you're kind of urban, man. Like they didn't say it like that, but that's what I got out of it, and it hurt. But like at the same time, there are a lot of people looking for engineers, so if you skill up, I don't think you'll have a problem at all. But I think it's a good question. But I think you should talk to a lot of people. I found that I I work with a meetup here in Baltimore called Baltimore Black Techies. I found that people have had all kinds of different experiences, and again, it's definitely different. But again, I also live in a part of the country where, I mean, I grew up in Prince George's County, which is like 40 minutes here from Baltimore, but like it's the wealthiest Black county in the United States of America. So like in the area, there are Black people everywhere. So like it may not be as big of a boon here as it might be everywhere else. Maybe if I tried to look for a job elsewhere, maybe I'd see some different things. But here it's fine. In my opinion, program concepts should be taught on a typed language. Absolutely. Thank you, UMPS or UMPS. Absolutely. And that is why in this one, we are learning on a statically typed language. That's why we're using Go. I agree. I think advanced programming topics should be taught on a typed language. The reason why we're probably not going to teach them in the next go around in a statically typed language because we never did an intro in a statically typed language, but I may consider it and I may swap it up so that actually what we do is go with the typed language for an intro for 12 weeks and then the third iteration do advanced, or maybe we'll do both. So I think that is a great, I agree with you, and you make that gives me the feels to maybe go and do that for sure. I did serverless architecture. I was asking about serverless framework. Oh yeah, serverless is great. I love serverless. I love the serverless framework. It is easy to set up some stuff. I spun up a API gateway and a couple functions to do some stuff, to return some stuff to someone just yesterday. You can just do it so fast. Serverless is great. Serverless framework is phenomenal. There are a few other ones like Apex, but serverless is amazing, and I love it. You have to run your VMs on Hyper-V, yeah, but I hate Hyper-V as well. So you guys are having the same conversation that I have in my head all the time. A good point. I need to use Docker. Yeah, honestly, that's where Mac shines. That's where if you don't want to run Linux, Macs shine in being able to Macs do shine for development. They're BSD based. They're Unix based. But I don't know. I play a lot of video games. That is why I'm on Windows, and I like to build computers, and Macs don't let me build my computer. So at a reasonable price. So that is why I do have a Windows computer and Linux. I do have a Mac work computer, so I do use them all. I've yet to get my instance of WSL work. With Docker though, yeah, it took me a little while to get there, but once you get it, it does work. I haven't seen any issues with it. It worked for me. First question I asked recruiters: what does DevOps mean to the company? That's a great question, because usually it's Jenkins, live support, yeah, or just automation engineer or cloud architect, 1000%. And that's a great first question to ask to recruiters. Jenkins live support sounds like the worst job ever. If you ever work with Jenkins, that sounds terrible. That's true. That is a good question to ask. Only ask it after you yourself have a good understanding of what DevOps means to you. But you should ask it because, again, DevOps means something different at every single company. Every single company. Do you recommend Pop! OS for gaming? Yes. If you're going to game on Linux, absolutely Pop! OS is perfect. If you're on the File Explorer, yeah, you can change the File Explorer. The File Explorer is fine with me. But if you're going to game on Linux, yes, absolutely. I recommend Pop! OS. Super easy, for sure. Being mixed, the name will soon to be Spanish. Don't let barriers hold you back. Just share out and reach. And the bros, we're all people. Yeah, that's very true. The tech industry has been super accepting. I mean, years ago, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, I worked at a company and we had a trans woman on our team, and it was nothing else. She had crazy hair and like her whole work area was like, she had like a couch like in her cubicle, and like she do like everyone just kind of lives, and everyone no problems at all. And I thought that was very progressive for years ago for the industry. And like I had seen companies do worse to people to like be very mean to people, and this was just kind of the norm. Like if you could do the job, people were pretty accepting of you. So I don't know. I found the tech industry to be pretty accepting. Again, I think the tech industry for the most part is accepting, but that doesn't mean you're going to thrive or fit in. There is a cultural learning curve. I got to be honest about that. There's a cultural learning curve. If you've never been around, like depending on where you grew up and stuff, like it can be a different space, and just learning how to exist in that is a thing. It really is a thing, but I don't think it's, I think you should face it head on. I think you can figure it out. Yeah, you'll learn that everyone really is just a human being. Thank you for answering my question. I haven't ever faced blatant racism, but I've always been slightly worried about not fitting in the culture. Yeah, I really hate that. I really hate that term. What's funny is I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. This whole stream, this whole idea of Mastermind Academy actually came out of I actually interviewed for a position at Linux Academy, actually for a DevOps architect, a DevOps training architect position. I was like, this is what I was born for. I was like, I want this role. Like I was thinking about doing some stuff like this. I really wanted the role. And I interviewed. To me, the interview went amazing. It was with the engineering VP there. I really felt like it felt great. It felt like it went perfect. And I got a rejection in like 2 seconds, like so fast, like literally like an hour after we got off of the call, we're going with other candidates thing. And that's fine. I'm cool with that. I asked for feedback. And basically it was just like you're not a culture fit. Like we thought you were impressive, but you're just not a culture fit. And I was like, man, that hurt more than anything. It hurt because it's like, what? Like I would like for you to have judged me on my skills. Any other answer I would have taken. And so this was kind of born out of that. Well, like if you're not going to let me be there and do that, let me go do it myself. But so that was interesting. But again, for the most part, there's this culture thing in the tech industry, which is, I think, a lot of places is detrimental. I get it. You want to keep the culture because you want to keep a comfortable work atmosphere. But every new person who comes into a company inherently changes that culture a bit. And that is a good thing. And you should allow that to happen. I think you can, if you build it the right way, the people who come in, they'll give a little bit of themselves, which will modify your culture, but also your culture will give a lot to them, and they'll start to take on some things that are good about it, and you'll start to take on some things that are good about them, and it will adjust as people kind of grow on the team. And so that is why I'm always like, the whole culture thing is overly used in the tech industry. And again, I think it inherently excludes people, but I think that's the biggest barrier, rather than blatant, like anyone truly caring about what you look like, or what you are, what you do. I think it's more of that. We live near each other. I live in Prince George's County. Yeah, I grew up in I grew up in Largo, but they rezoned it as Upper Marlboro. But like I said, I'm in Baltimore now. I live and work in Baltimore, but I come back to PG all the time. My whole family's still in PG. It's good to see people with skills like you in the DMV area. That's the goal, man. I really want to just expose tech to as many people as possible. I just don't think a lot of people know this is a viable career, business, like a career option. Like I don't think people know, like you don't really need a degree to be successful in it. You can learn this stuff on your own. There's so much content out here that you can use to just hop into and learn this stuff. So, again, I think a lot of it's for visibility. A lot of people are on Twitch already. I think the goal is just to show people like, hey, like we're out here, you can do this. It's really isn't that hard if you're willing to invest the time, willing to be a little bit uncomfortable for a little bit, you can do it. And for a lot of people, you can change your lives. Like I think that's why I like Baltimore City so much. We're talking about some people. We're talking about people. There's people here where I go talk to where if they were to make $60,000 a year, they would be rich to themselves, and like that's a low tech salary. It's a low tech. It's a low tech salary, but it's something that you can walk into. It's something that you can take the time and maybe get an A+ cert just so you can have an understanding how computers work, and maybe go get a desktop support job, and you can make more than that just doing desktop support and move your way up from there. But like if you can show people that that's an option, you know, there's people whose families have never made anywhere near that here in Baltimore or everywhere really. So that's the goal. Just let people see this, to grow a community where people can start to see like, man, like this is an option. There's a way in. There's resources to do it, and honestly, I can do it at the comfort of my own home. Like I like people to know that you can do it. You can do it from home. I became a DevOps engineer in Starbucks. Honestly, like I had a work from home job. I was a systems administrator. I had a work from home sysadmin job. I got so tired of being in the house. Like I was spend all day in the house working. And so I would go work out and I would go to Starbucks afterwards. And I was watching movies at first, and I would just get a drink or two and just kind of sit and chill. And then I was like, you know what? Let me get this Linux Academy subscription. Let me learn some of this stuff. I learned Puppet, learned Git and some other stuff. Started to learn how to code a little bit better. And I was able to get my first DevOps job. And like, I did that in the comfort of Starbucks. Like, I mean, that's not that. I mean, to me, everyone has a different idea of what's hard. And to me, like, especially thinking back on it, like that was so chill. It was kind of nice. It was kind of comfortable. Just headphones on, sitting in front of a laptop with a macchiato and just learning some stuff. And you know, it's really interesting. And that's what I love so much about tech. It really is. Culture thing is on the way out. Younger folks moving in the middle management now. Yeah. Yeah, it really is just knuckling down and learning. And it's not even, you don't even have to learn that much. Like you really don't even have to learn that much. Like I think sometimes things like this, where we go over so much stuff, makes people think that they have to learn all of it. No, you can get all the stuff we're talking about. Again, you could just learn Linux and like learn Linux and watch and like learn how to manage some operating systems. You can get a job doing just that. Just learn the cloud. You can get a job doing just that. Learn how to program. You can get a job doing just that. You can learn some CI/CD stuff and get a job as a release engineer. You could you don't need to learn all of it at once. There's so many places you can get in. You can become a test engineer. You can UX UI. There's so many different places. Just knuckle down and just start learning. Just start picking up skills. Start learning how to talk about things, and you'll get a job. How would I make the switch from Windows to Pop OS? So all you would do is you would go ahead. You would basically go to system76.com, or I think you just Google Pop OS. If you've never done this before, I would recommend either having a backup computer to kind of help you solve problems with, but you basically download it and then use a program like there's something called Rufus, especially if you're in Windows. It's called Rufus. I'll paste it in here, and you use that to make a bootable disk. You plug that in and you run through the installer. It's a click-through installer, and so you can start off by dual booting. So you can actually run Windows and Linux at the same time, and when your computer starts up, it'll say, hey, which one do you want to hop into? And I recommend that first. And you basically just set it up, and you would hop into Linux when you want to hop into Linux. If you want to hop into Windows, you just restart your computer and hop into Windows. I'll probably do there's a bunch of videos out on it, but maybe we'll do a stream showing people how to like really like set up a dual boot setup on their computer for sure. Or you can run it in VM if your computer's powerful enough. We will definitely be running I think it's the next thing we're doing. I think it's Linux. No, I think we'll be doing VirtualBox at the very beginning of Linux. I think I'll be showing you how to set it up in VirtualBox. I think that's after coding, after the Golang stuff. I think that's the first thing that we're doing. My transition, bartender, and then DevOps with some personal study, and then someone taking a risk on me. Yeah, like if you so what I've learned over the years is that people actually genuinely like helping people. Like I know it seems like the world's crazy and everyone's out for themselves, but if you start talking to people, like people actually really like helping people, and generally people like to give help to the people who are looking to help themselves. And if you reach out, someone will take a chance on you. I'm telling you, someone will absolutely take a chance on you. Like I said, we have generally, like I said last time, there's no junior DevOps engineer, but you know, we had an intern who said she wanted to do DevOps. So we're like, cool, we know you, we know you have the aptitude. We're gonna go ahead and take a chance on you and just help you grow into being that. And a lot of people are doing that more and more because DevOps engineers are getting so expensive, tech's moving so fast. People are realizing you're gonna have to build your engineers rather than just hiring them because there just aren't enough. So someone will take a chance on you. Just start learning, start picking up the skills. I'm telling you, it will work out. I promise you it'll work out. I started programming sooner. I didn't really get invested until a year. I started college. I wish I could teach or text people around me. Yes, programming tech seems so unavailable to the average person. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When it comes to programming, like, so I struggle with it in college. Like, I don't have a comp sci background. I actually quit computer science because coding was hard, and did information systems instead. I didn't get good. I had to try to learn how to program like 3 or 4 times before I started to really get it. But that's because of the ways that that I was being taught. That just didn't work for me. Now there's content. Any way that you like to consume content and learn, there's a way to learn it. So there are podcasts, there are videos, all kinds of videos. There are interactive tutorials. And once I was able to find the method that I like to learn coding, it was great. And really what that method was to I went to a single in-person class. I had some coding chops before this, but I went to a single in-person Golang workshop, all day thing called GoBridge. A guy here in Baltimore named Johnny Borsico taught it. He's big in the Golang community, got a podcast and everything. You're gonna get all the information on him next week. But just the way he taught it to me, like, made everything make sense. And then I went and I did a whole, I basically took a free computer science course online, and I had to go back and learn. It helped me learn to code, me personally, when I went and learned the computer science concepts, like the deeper concepts. That's what helped me. That won't help everyone. That definitely is not the way for everyone, but you got to find the way that works for you. When I learned those deeper concepts, it made everything make sense. That's just the way my mind works. Like, once I knew the underlying things, it made everything else start to make sense. So that's how I had to learn it. But again, I had to learn how to code a whole bunch of times. So however you got to do it, give it your all. Keep trying. Take a break, learn something new if you're having a lot of trouble, and then keep at it. You will get it. You'll definitely get it. Is Linux Academy worth it? Yeah. I mean, as a Linux Academy, I thought was great. I thought it was good for a lot of things. I would not get Linux Academy if your goal is to learn cloud. I would get A Cloud Guru for that. They have combined, but I don't know how their combined services work yet. But yeah, Linux Academy I think is absolutely worth it. I do think it's worth it. That's dope. You passed the GCP exam. Using Linux Academy, that's awesome. I think A Cloud Guru is I think is superior when it comes to cloud trainings, though. From everything I've seen, I've given them some comparison. Yes, you got to meet up with people who can help you just chat. Surround yourself, go to meetups, go to meetup.com and find some meetups, even if it's about something you don't care about. So immerse yourself in tech, start having conversations with people, or just listen to people have conversations about tech. That's where you get the interview. That's where you learn how to pass the interview. When you can start talking about this stuff and start talking about what you know. I can't tell you, I've gotten offered positions when all we did was have conversations about technologies that I've never used, but I had watched videos on what they do and heard people talking about it, and I understood where it fit into things, so I was able to have a conversation about it, but I never even used anything in their stack, and people have offered me positions off of that. So that's where you really learn to shine, for sure. Would you recommend it for a college student? I would. At HBCU, what Cash Me TV, what HBCU are you at? I'm a senior dev, insurance provider, and a strong culture initiative. First culture and voted in employees. Yeah, I was involved in the culture team. Ended up successfully getting the PTO policy change, doubling. That's awesome. Folks, annual PTO, and it stops at 30 days. That's good. That's really good. 10 years of service used to be 18 to 30. Maybe we're in the minority, but it's been great here. That's awesome. That is awesome. I also like that you're contributing to the culture of the company, contributing to change. Like a lot of people just want to be worker bees, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with just getting in where you fit in, doing your job. But I don't know. I like. I've recently changed my, like, not recently, but in the past few years, I've kind of changed my outlook on that. And I think you should. I think that if you're gonna work somewhere, if you're gonna be working somewhere, I think it is in your best interest to give, not give as much to yourself to your company as possible, but give more to your company than just the hands-on work that you're doing. Because again, I think there are ways like that, like adding the PTO days that Ball Resin was able to do, that benefit you, that benefit your quality of life, that allow you to have some impact there, that's bigger than that, for sure. Came to Canada for a Go workshop. Yeah. Cloud on Fleek. Yep, he did. He's great, man. I love Johnny. He's a cool dude. Description. Oh yeah, we say awesome. That's awesome. Baltimore DevOps meetup. Yes. So, yeah, if anyone's in Baltimore, you should definitely head to the Baltimore DevOps meetup. I was helping revitalize it when they first were bringing it back. A bunch of people from Fearless are actually the ones who kind of help run that now. But I think it's been dwindling. The only reason I haven't been able to been going to it is because I have another meetup on the same nights. They're on Thursday, and I was basically running another meetup on the same nights, but I've kind of pulled back on that to work on more of this stuff, even though I still attend. So maybe I'll check that out. But yeah, hit up meetup.com and head up, like, just find some meetups near you. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, I have a whole group of friends now in Baltimore that I didn't have just because I'm going to meetup. Like, these people I hang out with, we've gone on trips together. We've gone to Miami together and gone all these places together. And like, these are people like I hang out with, that I'm cool with, that help me out. Like, I'm working with some of them on this, like some things to grow Mastermind Academy, working on with them on stuff like that. So like, you'll be amazed at what you can find if you put yourself out there and just go have the conversations. Like, seriously, just go have the conversations. I was able to get someone a job that I met at the meetup. We had talked a couple times and he's cool. He'd been learning Python and done some serverless stuff, but had never had a job as a DevOps engineer or infrastructure engineer, and he was able to secure a DevOps position here off of my referral. But you would never know. You would never know what will come out of it. Seriously, just put yourself out there. There's, in a starving market, in a starving industry where like there's really not enough people to fill the positions. Like, you would be so surprised. It is scary. It's definitely scary. Like, if you were to get one of those positions of like, oh no, like, am I going to be good enough? Like, I don't know enough to do stuff like this. And again, part of this boot camp is for you to get comfortable being uncomfortable. The goal is so that we learn how to find answers. So we'll get to a point where when questions are asked, that I'm not going to stop and give you the answer. We're going to stop and we're going to Google it together. We're going to stop and we're going to see how we can look through documentation to find the answer. We're going to stop so we can, put together some pieces of things that we already did so that we can find the answer. Like, the goal here is to equip you with the ways to find the answers. That's when you're good. Like, that's when you're good. Like 20 times a day, things happen that I do not know the answer to. But again, over the years, I've been equipped to know enough to go find the answer for myself, work with my team to go find the answer. So yeah, that's when you get good. That's awesome. I feel intimidated. Yes, the intimidation thing is a big thing that I'm trying to watch. Any tips for keeping it approachable? I don't have any good tips right now. It is a big thing, and I'm glad you recognize it. I try to keep it approachable, but just telling people all the time that like I spend a lot of the day not knowing exactly what to do next. But that doesn't always get through to people. And I don't have any good answers or any tips, but I'll keep thinking about some. And hopefully if you find any good ways to kind of approach that so people don't feel so intimidated, definitely let me know, because trying to get the intimidation factor down is tough. And that's also kind of what I hope happens with something like Mastermind Academy, like with this, like streaming or doing it another way, like being able to both interact, but also be kind of private, and kind of yeah, kind of hidden. I'm hoping pulls away some of that intimidation factor and allow people to, you know, explore a little more, because they'll be on their own, but also have enough resources around them to be able to get out of any holes they get into. I'm hoping may help, but again, this is all just an experiment. If you can find an honest way to get honest feedback on why people aren't attending, that would happen. Yeah, just don't have time, don't see value. That's true. That's something we saw for the DevOps meetup, is that people were just like, man, look, I work all day and I just don't have time to come to something like that. I got family at home, so I can come like once every 2 months or something like that. Yeah, getting honest feedback is tough if you can find a way. Limited.com. Anyone know where I can get really good at system design really quickly? I don't have an answer for you. I'm a technical lead, and I'm still continuously trying to get better at systems design. There's no great resources for systems design. So what's funny is there may be some O'Reilly books or something, but like I went to an O'Reilly software architecture conference, and man, that was really good. That was a really good conference for learning some systems design stuff. It was very interesting. Like there was actually like this like competition where we teamed up and had to build. They gave us some requirements. We had to build these systems and stuff, and seeing like how vastly differently people thought because of their experiences, it was crazy, and it really like helped me to think a little bit differently. And when I'm trying to design something, and yeah, I don't know. Also, I would say that for systems design, hopefully, you don't need to like be the only person to rely on to do it. If you have any resources around you, like bounce ideas off of people, see what other people think. It doesn't have to be all you. You don't have to bear that. You shouldn't have to bear that burden by yourself unless you're like the only person. But I'm a junior dev having designed an enterprise application. Hey, what I would do is if there's any information you can share about it, hop into the Slack, share what the requirements are if you can, even if you have to like change some things to hide some things. Do your best to kind of share what the requirements are, and as a community, we can help you. Like we can help you figure out what to do. I think we can help you point you in the right direction to designing some things. So that's one of the generally recommended. Have you seen the advanced ultimate Go talk at GopherCon? Love that. I have not seen that, and I'm literally putting that into YouTube right now. I'm assuming it's on YouTube, and I will watch that. That is going in my to watch later. Cool, thank you. I've not. I'll definitely check that out though. All right, cool. 11. Oh yeah. Let's talk salaries. Let's talk salaries real quick, and I'm gonna go after we talk salaries. Salaries in DevOps. So again, this topic, this is a great topic, and this will be better. We're going to be doing the engineering panel later on, which is a good time to kind of ask people up front. Again, this is dependent on where you are. You know, I'm in the United States, East Coast of the United States, and again, so they say there's no JV in DevOps. So when you really get it, like when you're really like what's considered to be like a junior DevOps engineer, like to be honest, I've seen people make anywhere between like 60 and like 85 for a role like that. I think that's fairly standard for around. I think that's fairly standard for around the country. Me personally, if the title is DevOps engineer, I wouldn't take less than 75. Like I think here at Fearless, our salary bands are transparent, but I think they're changing. But I'm pretty sure level 1 DevOps engineer, like you barely know anything, is $70,000 because that's what the market demands. But again, that's East Coast. We're near DC. I think Baltimore has like a closer to DC than like North Carolina or something like that, salary wise, and both distances as well. But I would do some research on like Glassdoor and stuff for your area, Indeed, and things like that, to see what people are offering. I'd actually call some recruiters and ask, like, if there's DevOps positions open. You'd be surprised that sometimes they try to keep that information from me, but if you just ask, like, hey, I'm looking at this position, I'm thinking about applying for it. Like, what's the salary range? They'll generally give it to you nowadays. But I would say once you get into the mid, and this is very general, but once you get into the mid levels, once you have like 2 years of experience and up, honestly, I think you should be making, I really think anywhere in the country, once you're in that mid level, like once you have like 2.5 to 3 years of experience, I think you should be making 6 figures. Everywhere I've seen, or you should be very close to somewhere that'll pay you 6 figures. I think places like Texas and everywhere on the West Coast and pretty much everywhere on the East Coast and even towards the middle of the country like Ohio and stuff. Everything that I've seen, I think you should, once you get to that 2.5 to 3 year mark, I think if you've been doing DevOps or like your job title's been DevOps and you're dealing with infrastructure and automation, I think you should be at 6 figures for sure everywhere. I think that's pretty standard. I think that's pretty standard across the board. It's crazy because I think the range is big in there. Like when you get to that mid level, like between like 2.5 years and like 6 years, I think the range is super high anywhere in there. Like I think it's like, I would say between like 100 grand and like 135 grand, like anywhere on that timeline, I think you could fall in there. I really think you could fall in there. What about 7 years of sysadmin, 15-year gap, then 2 years software development? I think you'd be surprised at that. I think you could absolutely get, depending on how relevant your sysadmin experience is to the kind of methods that people are using now. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you got something in the mid 120s or 130s with that much experience, to be honest. Yeah, especially if you have 2 years of software development, like 2 good years of software development, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. A lot of people tell me 7 years don't count. I disagree. That 7 years don't count. Every company's different. I think the 7 years absolutely count. Yeah, I think 7 years absolutely count. Depending on what you're doing, like sysadmin stuff means something different. There's a lot of forms of systems administration. Depending on what you were doing, I think they absolutely count. You know about the CKA certification? Yes, I do know about the CKA certification because that is on my list of things to do this year. I want to get 2 certifications this year. I want to get the AWS Solutions Architect Professional certificate, and I want to get the CKA certification. Yes, I actually don't recommend certifications that often, but I do recommend cloud certifications, and I do recommend this Kubernetes one because everyone wants Kubernetes right now, whether or not they need it, whether or not it's the right answer for them. Everyone wants Kubernetes right now, and if you can secure that CKA, I think it's super beneficial right now. But yeah, I am planning on getting the CKA. Projects to work on with AWS. That's a really hard one. Some projects to work on with AWS is a tough one because AWS has so many services. You can literally work on any project. What's your goal with AWS? What are you trying to learn with AWS? And then maybe I can figure out some projects. Let me go back up to the salary stuff just a little bit more. I think when you're a senior DevOps engineer, at least on the East Coast, I don't know this everywhere, but on the East Coast right now, senior DevOps engineers positions are paying like between 140 and up to like 185, 190. To be honest, you can get more some places, but generally, that's the range that I see pretty heavily. Like most of the stuff, you can pretty easily get senior positions like in the 140 to 160 range, but I see positions going up to like 185, 190 pretty often as well. So it is getting pretty high. It's getting pretty high everywhere for senior engineers. And again, that senior DevOps engineer, senior is like, man, depending on where you go, senior could be like 5 or 6 years, to be honest. And you're now a senior engineer, and people will give you that kind of money, especially if you've worked on relevant technologies. You can absolutely get money like that. sure. You got to be able to sell why your skills matter. Absolutely. Thought certs were useless in DevOps. No. I don't think certs may be useless to help you be good at DevOps or to be able to implement DevOps properly. But there's a few reasons why cloud certificates are kind of important right now, and that is because of partner levels. There are not all companies, but companies who do service work, who are Amazon partners, actually get certain perks for people at the companies having certifications. So companies will basically seek out people who have certain certifications because it's actually a business benefit for them to have them on board. That's the reason why I say that. The CKA is only because that I think right now, because nobody knows Kubernetes, like companies don't know what Kubernetes really is yet. And because the CKA exam is so relatively new, not many people have it. Being able to say you're certified in Kubernetes, I think is a big deal right now. I think it's a huge deal right now. And again, like I said, I generally don't believe in certs. I just the value I've seen talking to employers, they don't really care that you know it. It just is, again, the AWS ones, the cloud ones are generally for, it can net them extra business for getting to a certain partner level status. And then the CKA specifically has everything to do with Kubernetes' popularity, for sure. Not necessary, but I think it can get you in the door at places in lieu of experience, to be honest. Do a CK and professional Google Cloud developers well this year. Dope. What salary do you expect a Go dev with 7 years of experience to make? Yeah, if you're purely a Go dev, I don't know. I would definitely say mid 140, 150. I think. Go developer. Go developer salaries have been pretty high. So yeah, the average Go developer salary in the USA is 135. So depending on where you are in the country, I think 7 years of experience puts you at above an average Go developer salary. I think I would easily say mid 140s, low 150s, maybe a little bit more. Solutions architect. Oh, to become an SA, man. So solution architect is it has broad concepts. The projects that you need to work on would be either one huge project or a bunch of tiny projects in there. Again, because the key with solutions architect is to balance performance and cost. And it gets tough. Like if you're trying to just get the solutions architect associate, most of that honestly is going to be trying to learn the services and the pricing and have a slight idea on what to do. But once you get to the professional one, you got to know, like, kind of have to have the experience of working with systems already to like be able to do it properly, which is kind of tough. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think. I don't know any projects offhand. Maybe I'll try to think of some. And maybe we'll try to do a few during the AWS section. But I don't have any good answers for you right now for that. Is knowing AWS best practices enough in terms of security? No. Nothing's enough in terms of security. There's a lot you can use AWS for to minimize as much as possible. Is it enough? You can make your infrastructure as secure as possible, but your application can be super insecure. So I don't know. Is anything ever enough security wise? I'm not sure. What for senior DevOps engineer? 180K. Wow, yeah, no, absolutely. You can definitely make 180K as a senior DevOps engineer, depending on where you are in the country. In the DC area, I think 180K would be. I think those jobs are not crazy plentiful, but I think jobs at 150 and 160 are incredibly plentiful all up and down the East Coast. But you can definitely find some at 180. Junior DevOps make, again, there's probably not many specified junior DevOps engineer things, but like a DevOps engineer with not many years of experience, probably, I would probably say most places in the 70 to 80K range for junior. Yeah, I'd probably say somewhere in there. Because even here we can do the same thing for like, you can see even Golang. I mean, this is a little bit more than the Golang jobs. If this is the median, yeah, I'd probably say around 80,000 for junior. This is like 136 is like mid to mid senior, and then you can see here highs at 224 and stuff. Yeah. So it's a good time now to get into K8s. Yes, it is a phenomenal time to get into Kubernetes. It really is. But the thing is, I actually think it's going to be a good time to get into Kubernetes for a long time. Again, for whatever reason, I think that the industry has adopted Kubernetes as the next genuine, real wave. I don't think it's a fleeting technology. I think that the market hasn't even really hit a critical demand for it yet, but I think it will. Again, I don't necessarily think Kubernetes is the answer, but I think it's what's been chosen. And again, maybe we'll come back in 5 or 10 years and I'm completely wrong, but I genuinely, I'll talk to as many people as you can. I genuinely believe Kubernetes is right now, it's the chosen one for some reason. And I think getting into it now will be supremely beneficial to anyone who does. Dev salaries in San Francisco are deceptive. I read something that at only being 100K a year is considered low income or something. Absolutely. In San Fran, 100K is nothing. In San Fran, even if the SRAs get over 100K, like 100K in San Fran is not a lot of money. 100K seems low. Yeah, cost of living. For IT admins with 8 years plus of experience wanting to jump into DevOps is learning Ansible. Oh, perfect. Jenkins and Docker enough to get hired. Absolutely. If I were you, just for your own sake, I may switch Jenkins. If I were you, I would probably switch Jenkins to something else like Circle, CI, or Travis, or something else that's container-based building services. Jenkins is for sure in demand, but I think the learning curve can be a little tough. And like Jenkins is just no longer. It's too big. It's become too big, and it's no longer a good product. It can do a lot, but that doesn't mean it's a good product. Yeah, Jenkins is a hassle, but absolutely, you learn Docker and a configuration management tool like Ansible, and it'll absolutely get you a job. Like literally, an IT admin who knows Ansible and Docker is what most DevOps engineering positions are. I'm gonna be 100% honest. That's what most of them are. Or that's what, I wouldn't say most, but that's what it is at a lot of places. It's an IT admin who can do some automation with Ansible and containers. That's really what it is. How much Docker experience is needed before jumping into K8s? This is a great question, and one that I've been jumping back and forth with a lot over the past year or so. I think personally, I really still recommend that people jump all the way into Docker first before jumping deep into Kubernetes. How much experience? I don't know. I think once you're comfortable with Docker files and understanding and like building containers, being able to write Docker files to build containers, I think once you can understand the caveats of running containers, understanding that their storage is ephemeral, understanding that it's designed for single process runtimes, knowing that it's these are mutable. Knowing kind of just the nature of how they work. I think once you have that, you're fine. I don't think you have to be a Docker pro, but I think you should have a good handle on Docker before going to Kubernetes. I think it'll help you out a lot in doing that. Cool, Zufo. Thank you. Thanks so much for the sub. I really appreciate it. keep an eye out for emails coming for your Google Classroom link very shortly. If you manage Linux VMs, it's pretty easy to grasp the basics of the cloud related products. Absolutely. I'd replace Jenkins with GitLab or something similar. Absolutely. That's how I feel. But Jenkins, I do think Jenkins is fine. Any CI/CD tool I think is fine. Did a report that indicated 70K a year in San Francisco as poverty point. I truly believe that. I know people in San Fran. I know someone splitting not that big of a bedroom, not that big of a house, a 2-bedroom house. Their rent is almost $5,000, and their apartment is small. It's 2 of them. So they're both paying over $2,000 a month in rent for their own little bedrooms, which is nuts to me. I think they're both paying like $2,300 or $2,400 a month piece. That is wild. Like you have to get a roommate. There's no way you can live there for less than 120, 130, like and be at all comfortable. But yeah, cost of living is just out of control. Is it true that Jenkins is still the most used CI/CD solution? God, it has to be. Jenkins was a juggernaut. It was the first. Like it was the thing. Like if you wanted to do any CI/CD, it was what you used. Very extensible. Yes, I'm very confident. I don't know for sure, but I'm very confident in saying that it's still the most used CI/CD solution. It's also the most hated CI/CD solution, and it is the one that people are moving away from. Just not because, yes, I don't think it's a great product, but people are not moving away from Jenkins because it's a bad product. They're moving away because technology has changed. Container-based architectures are a thing. And so a lot of CI/CD solutions have popped up to solve problems in the way that tech is currently done. And so that's why I think they're better. Like I think Circle CI is an amazing product. Travis CI is an amazing product. And there are a bunch of other GitLab's CI is an amazing product that make it a little bit easy. GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions. If you're already in GitHub, you can write yourself a quick little YAML file and have a full build pipeline set up without having to set up all this crazy stuff. Like you can do it in a matter of minutes. And so that's why people don't love Jenkins. But again, it's like anything else. It's like the same reason people don't like Microsoft. Like Microsoft was the juggernaut. Like it was the big thing. Windows was everywhere. So obviously the more people who are using it, the more people are going to think it's bad. And when you have something that big, the way it moves, it's not always going to be of the best quality, and it's not going to be able to move as fast to change with the times. But yeah, it's a juggernaut technology. It's still the most used. You will absolutely be able to find jobs using it. It's just, if I can avoid it, I will. Just as Java is still one of the most used programming languages, absolutely. What do you guys think of doing remote work as a DevOps engineer? To be honest, I've done some remote work. I think it's cool. I definitely think it's cool, but I think it's cool once you're in the midst of your career. Once you're very comfortable, once you've seen a lot of things, I think that's when it's best to do something like that. To be honest, I think it's fine. But I think so many, like DevOps can have so many pieces to it that I think it can be overwhelming if you're still like trying to become confident in yourself as a remote employee. Like everywhere that's remote is not supportive. You may not have the resources that you need to do certain things. So I don't know. I recommend while you're really trying to get comfortable to find an in-office job where you have people there who you can pair with and things like that, or just ensure that remote job has a culture of help, of support, of mentorship. But cool, Jenkins UI makes my eyes bleed. Yeah, we can definitely end on that note. It does. It's gross. It's definitely gross. And having great internet helps. There's a lot of tools like Slack and like Skype or Google Hangouts or Zoom that help make remote work super duper. Zufo, do you do one-on-one consultations? I like to give advice on my situation. Come with a plan. Yes. I think I announced that part of Mastermind now. The reason why I'm in this I'm no longer in my house. I'm in this. I have a little office here. It's if I showed you the whole office, it's pretty small. In this co-working space is because Mastermind. Yes, we're basically going to be starting to advance this into not only teaching but helping people get jobs, working with companies to advocate for engineers, and helping engineers really find their way. So absolutely, reach out. My email is abrooks@mastermind.io. Reach out. I'll reach back out via email first. And then if we would prefer to hop on a call or something, we can definitely hop on a call. That's for anyone. Reach out. I'm not going to be the only one looking at resumes and stuff. I do have someone who's helping me out, who will be helping the email piece may come from them. It'll come from one of us just because there's actually been a lot of people who have reached out, but he's actually a more senior engineer than I am, who has a lot of information. But yeah. That is what we'll be doing. That really is 11:34. I gotta go to bed. When I gotta get home. But what I am gonna do tonight though is I don't know about this raid thing, but I'm gonna try to set up a raid really quick. To a dude that I think is cool. That he codes for Netflix. His name is the Primesian. But I've been watching him. I think he just has some cool stuff. If you're trying to learn how to code, I just think he's someone cool to watch. You don't got to stick around. But I'm gonna try to figure out how to raid this guy, because I think it's cool. He does some cool stuff. Like he's doing some Vim stuff right now. He seems like an incredibly intelligent developer, like way better developer than I am. I think it would be cool, someone cool to watch to introduce you guys to. But I'll probably figure out how to raid that. He's very strong with him, like super strong. Let's try that. Can I do it from? Let's see. Do I have to do it from Twitch, or can I do it from? Let's see. /raid. Let's see. /raid. Oh no, I can hear myself. And then channel. Let's try this out. I think it'll be fun. But yeah, that's it for tonight. I'm gonna go through, and even though it's late, I'm gonna go through and make sure everyone can get into the Google Classroom. So all the people who have sent me messages, I will respond to them tonight. If you still are having trouble, keep an eye on your email. I'm gonna resend out all the messages, or send me an email so I can make sure we get everyone squared away before this week is out. But yeah, that's it. That's it for me. I'm just trying to learn. I'm trying to learn how to just use Twitch. Like, this is cool. Use raid. So I think it's going to take you guys to someone else's channel. But excellent. Everyone have a good night. I'm going to send you over. Oh, the series is Backfire Mixtape. We're done for the night. Absolutely. We are gonna head over now. All right, everybody, have a good night. I'll see you all tomorrow. If you're in for Python, be back tomorrow. We're gonna be writing some real Python tomorrow, so we're really gonna get into the meat of things tomorrow. For Python, that'll be it for the week. I'm not streaming on Friday, and we'll start back up on Sunday, and we'll be diving real deep into some Golang. So see you then.
There's room.
Welcome to
View,
Costco.
GR, thank you. Dr. Argus, my goodness, Master Minio, my goodness. Woo! Woo!
Welcome to
Making me
Costco.
all hot and sweaty. Thank you, and thank you. I genuinely appreciate all the niceness and
Welcome to
kindness. People, there's
Costco.
lots of room.
I love you.
All right, we got plenty of room in the theater. Please, just find a spot, get in. We'll make this work out. And of course,
Welcome to
I cannot
Costco.
even help
I love you.
but to welcome all these new people. Welcome. Let me,
Welcome
hey,
to
come on.
Costco.
My
I love
goodness gracious, there's been one too many follows tonight. Sonny, I hope...
Welcome to Costco.
Okay, don't turn my
I
screen
love
dark. Sonny, I hope you got your I love you button ready to be pressed. But Mr. Miz,
Welcome to
3, 2, 1, welcome
I
to
love
Costco. Ninjato.
Welcome to Costco.
Ninjato, is that some sort of
I
play
love
on Ninjago? Ninjago? Oh my goodness, I cannot even speak. Ninjago? Ningato. Is that little cat? Tiny cat? Welcome to Costco. Welcome to Costco. Kwangola. Monkey. Chunky. Creative Pigeon. And of course, Raidnor. Welcome. Quickly. Jump on that right there. Sign in. We just need a small blood sample so I can run your family history. I need to know. I just need to know who your grandmother is. We might be related. I mean, come on. Get in there. Get the kombucha. Drink it all.
Welcome to Costco.
Atomic
I love you.
Jaye. Thank you. I appreciate the follows. Welcome to Costco. And of course, Sonny loves you. Each and every one of you with a passion. Don't forget that. And you know what I can't do? I just can't even help it. We just let me tell you what we're doing tonight. First off, we've been listening to music back to back that I have not enjoyed. It's just starting to just hurt my feelings. And I don't like that. No more feelings hurting. Just jump over here to a different one. Did a little shuffle on this one. There we go. Let's just get back to something normal. All right. What kind of passion? All the passion. So by saving that many times, does that mean you have trust issues with him? Yes, absolutely. Don't feel so much. Mick-Code, welcome.
I love you.
Is it Zaijin? Zaijin? Welcome. Thank you so much. I
Welcome to Costco.
appreciate auto execute. You seem a little dangerous. You kind of seem like a risky fella. I don't know about this one. Show us the gentleman club scene. Pog. No, we cannot do welcome.